Howdy, folks. Welcome to the home of Adventures in Alberon. We are not playing Adventures of Alberon today. We are joined by Drew, who is very close to the camera. I could actually see myself in your eyes. My
In
name
your
is.
eyes, in your eyes.
So this is how we're starting today. My name is Joe. I'm your DM for this evening and most evenings. I am joined with regular players Ali, Miles, and Tina, and then of course our guest player who you have been introduced to already, Drew,
Up close and personal.
up close and personal.
Hello.
This is part 3 of a kind of miniature campaign happening alongside our main campaign. As Matt, our other player who plays Akka, but prior to that, Gunter, uh, we're just going to step aside. We're playing this small campaign set a little bit into the past, but alongside our current campaign. We began on the east coast of our continent called Dominion. We have mostly stayed on the east coast and up into the north, and this campaign is showing us what happens over on the west, where players or characters like Morwen and Akka are from. This is part 3 of a 4-part campaign. We'll get to a recap in just a little bit. But before that, the first announcement, and the only real announcement that I have, is I've been on vacation for the past week. After our last session, I literally shut down, packed my bags, and left. So everything behind me is exactly as I left it. It is very messy here. I am a little bit less prepared than I normally am. Just as a full disclosure, going into this week, just something to keep tabs on. Aside from that, because I was gone, there's not a whole lot of updates. There are some cool things in the works, but I'm going to hold off until they're a little bit more concrete. Drew, did you have anything that you wanted to share or announce?
I do. I love to shill. I have a pre-order that's going to be available until the next episode of this. So next Friday, at the end of the episode, it cuts off. So you can't get it anymore ever again. But I have a pre-order going on my website. So go check it out at www.diceencountersdice.com.
What was that URL, Drew?
www.diceencountersdice.com.
Oh, fantastic. So you heard it there, www.diceencounters.com, I think.
www.diceencountersdice.com.
Dice.com.
If you go to the Dicey Encounters, I don't know where that may lead you on the internet, so be careful.
Ooh. Oh man, we've had some unfortunate word not knowings before. So
Yeah, it's nothing new.
It was my fault.
it was
Which
Alan.
one?
It was the oysters.
Not a
So-
turn.
Oh no.
With that, we're going to get into our recap. Players without names. Last that we played, you had all begun as a group of heroes hired by the Riders of Galvany to bolster their forces as they are spread quite thin, dealing with the surge of undead activity across Dungannon. Your group climbed the Sky Wharf and had met with a couple of individuals and had successfully negotiated a hostage situation aboard a pirate ship. Successfully being a wildly shortened term for everything that occurred. Check it out on YouTube. But but last session, an entire week ago, you all made your way through the Daybreak Festival. This festival that you had learned, some of you having always known, celebrated originally the vanquishing of a vampire, the last true king of Dungannon, the city you are currently in, before it kind of turned over to this complex congressional system of nobles. No longer celebrating that, now kind of a commercialized holiday, but with everything that had gone on, you had begun to grow suspicious that something involving this long vanquished vampire was coming to light through this festival. As you made your way through the sights and smells and sounds, stopping here and there to visit a few colorful characters like Blizzy, who Baba Inu, off the cuff, accused of having stolen her husband, but ultimately made a very good ally. You all eventually did make your way to the home of a librarian, the head librarian of Dungannon Private Library, the only private library in the city, and the one to which the owner and the head librarian had ordered this casket that had been aboard that pirate ship. the casket containing this kind of lobotomized vampire, for lack of a better term. You raced across town, although racing across is kind of subjective, as you did stop to shop for a good amount of time. Anise, you managed to actually talk your way. Anna, sorry. You're a spice. Anna, you managed to talk your way into the back room. You were able to acquire a couple of things separate from the items that were in the front. And with this newfound loot, you made your way to the librarian's house. There you met the Bloodroot Sanctuary member known as Arkwin. You investigated this space, kind of finding some clues and some other little interesting knickknacks around this house. But ultimately, the most important thing being in the attic, this shrine almost to vampires and vampires of history, specifically Ignatius Samathorn, the last king of Dungannon. You read about the breaking of powerful arcane bonds, the kinds of which hold this vampire in his current suspension. You found the blueprints to this library, although it seemed as if they might be incomplete. But with that as your clue, you all took off in that direction and eventually found your way to the doorstep of this place. And that is where we're going to begin this evening. So give me just 1 second. I got to remember how all of this stuff works. Alrighty.
It's a door.
It is.
Should we open it?
Mm.
I know they're unlocked now, thanks to. I just look over at Annis, who's like still. I'm assuming you still have both of the keys or lockpicks in each fist, opening both doors at the same time.
So you see like the brass knuckle style lockpick tools all kind of like embedded and twisted into these things, and Anise has just kind of like pulled the doors open.
She's a badass.
This tiny little gnome swathed in this strange cloak, and you're still using the walking features of it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So Anise herself is actually dangling in the air, the cloak itself forming limbs that walk along behind. So like she dangles and kind of sways with each step. So all of that occurring, but you see over her shoulder and through this kind of dark space, like a circulation desk that you might see. There are a couple of statues in this small space in the front. You see behind the desk in the hallway, very short, that leads to a much wider space beyond. Two sort of gargoyle-like figures. They're facing inward at each other. This hallway may be 15 feet wide, only really about 10 feet long before it gets into this library proper. You can see that there is a door to the right. What would you like to do?
Without dark vision, can I see inside at all?
Without dark vision, looking ahead.
'Cause I feel like I'm
So
the only one without dark vision.
From where you are, far ahead, past the desk, past these gargoyle figures, the only thing that really gives you hints of bookshelves and books, and you do see these beyond, is a faint red glow. And you see it coming from multiple sources, though you do not see those sources, but it is dim. You see very sinister outlines and silhouettes in this crimson light. That's all.
Last session, I had dark vision for an hour. Do I still have that?
You have it up for about 20 more minutes.
Okay. Cool.
I feel like Baba Inu really likes dogs. So she's probably gonna like zip over to the gargoyles and just give him a sweet little boop on the nose.
So you watch as Baba Inu, this tiny little old woman gnome, the bun kind of bobs for a second before shadow. You watch as the shadow into the door and is gone. Baba Inu, you suddenly are in this hallway, darkness, and this large space stretches out in front of you. You get the sense from hearing this kind of echoes and this kind of almost the hum that you hear when you're in a large space. You feel that beyond. But you go over and with your cane, you tap this gargoyle, and it makes just a kind of clunk sound as it goes off the stone.
What a little sweetie.
But turning to the left, you actually see there is a statue, and this statue does appear to be like a human that matches that figure in the painting in the attic. Ignatius Samathorn, the vampire. You see, striking a very noble pose, one foot slightly in front of the other, kind of gesturing out. And looking into the corners, there are statues in each corner of the room. You see this vampire, you see a humanoid figure with a strange, kind of twisted beard of tentacles almost. You see smaller than these other two life-size figures, but depicted in stone leaping from the water, a massive dragon turtle. Dragon turtle. That's what it is. Too many turtle creatures in the last couple of sessions, and the turtle boots. But this is actually a dragon turtle that is well known in Dungannon. This is like a mythical figure. It's a creature that, like, whenever a fisherman in the harbor loses their line, it's because Walter, the dragon turtle, ate it.
Walter.
And this is Walter.
Wally.
And then the fourth statue is another human, kind of this gray armor that, if anybody wants to make an Arcana check, they certainly can. But like long, almost Wolverine-like sideburns, hair that kind of is slicked back and looks, even in the statue, kind of greasy. And of all of them, the most kind of carnivorous look in this creature's eye. What was yours, Bunghole Steve?
14.
Unclear. Don't know who this figure is. But there are a lot of statues in this space.
Baba's gonna squint real hard at these statues, and she's gonna zip back to the group. And as she does, I think 3 of my husbands are in there. Be careful.
Make a history check as you squint really hard, and maybe you do know something about these figures.
Nope, I don't. Even with my history is a +0, so that's a 2.
So yeah, probably 3 of your husbands, one of which, the very one stolen by Blisty.
That bastard.
All right. I mean, we have a map of this place, correct?
You have blueprints. They're the original blueprints, it seems, and so they look maybe incomplete, but you do have blueprints, yeah.
Hmm.
You said there was like a desk, right? Or is there like a table or something?
Yep. So 5 feet through the doors, there is this. It's a rectangular desk that's hollow in the middle, like you would see like a circulation desk. It's mahogany. There's a wooden chair behind it with these little rollers, so it can kind of move around.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna walk over to it and lay out the blueprint and see if I can figure out our direction.
Okay. So, kind of spreading out this blueprint, you can see, should this all kind of prove true, and already you can see there's a space on here that shouldn't be here. You look to the right, this doorway is not on the blueprint. This should just be a room that leads on and into the library. But you can see through these blueprints, this library is evidently 2 floors. The top and the bottom, they have a sculpture of a tree carved from the stone that this is carved into, that rises up and has these little lanterns hung off it, which you surmise is where this light's coming from, this dim red light. There are, you see like stacks of books indicated, off to your left somewhere. There appears to be a fireplace and like a small little sitting area. But they're blueprints. They kind of can give you an idea roughly as to like the layout of the place. There's nothing labeled.
Arquenth, what's your guess as to if they're here, where they would be? You say you hunt these things, right? This seems to be your field of expertise.
He's going to come over to this kind of laid out blueprint and look. You see his eyes narrow underneath this bright red hat. And he kind of looks over at the door. looks at you, Annis. Can you open this?
Probably.
Please. Give it a shot.
Rah, rah, shish kumbah, rah, rah, shish kumbah.
Arquin, you see it turns just slightly, and from your perspective, Baba Ini, you can just see like the nose from this look behind. Then he turns back to watch.
26.
26.
I knew it.
That's a door.
Yeah. So, interestingly, this door is a difficult door as you get down to it. It's not like the other ones that you've gone through. It's not decorative. You don't see like the nice kind of stonework with panes of glass inserted into it. You don't see any kind of mesh or anything that would like protect it necessarily. But there is something as you're working on it that is off about this glass material, probably arcane in nature. And as you work on the lock, it's almost like something pushes back against you. Like this has been arcanely manipulated in some way. But
Can
even with
I
this, even with this magical reinforcement, with the deft hands that you have and the small gnomish fingers, you're able to finally pick this lock.
Am I able to determine what the arcane feature is? Like, what about it?
Magic lock. As a wizard, you would know that so there was a magic lock spell applied on top of this.
Got
This
it.
was originally a DC 15 lock, or sorry, a DC 25 lock.
Mm-hmm.
You did pretty good. So
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
didn't roll that great either.
it opens, and when you pull it open, it like sticks a little. Like the lock is just barely open, and it's just with the brute force of your tiny gnomish body that you're able to budge it the last little bit away. But it does open.
Leverage.
You can see beyond, there is a hallway that seems to go about 30 feet down and then hooks to the left, 90-degree angle. Similar construction in terms of like the floor, the ceiling, the walls as the rest of this building that you've seen.
Is there like a? Because I'm still at the desk. Is there a map at the desk too? I feel like I would be looking for a welcome center.
Make an investigation check. Yeah.
Like, oh, I guess it's okay that we're in here, even though it's closed already. That we do have important business, but investigation of 3.
You watch as so Selwyn just sort of walks around the front of the desk once and then kind of reverses and walks around it again. You don't really look behind it.
My hands are totally on my hips. I'm just
Yeah.
like leaning
Stomp.
underneath and looking at just nothing.
And
There's
seeing
no-
you do that, I don't know what you're looking for, and I'm just like, yes, fine mahogany.
Fine mahogany. And you do, for Selwyn, for what it's worth, you are a craftsman, and looking at this, it is well made.
I'll give it a little double tap and
As you
alright.
are looking, you do see the statues in the periphery of the room. You see these gargoyles, and you can see, now that you have entered the space beyond, the central room is almost like a courtyard. You can see there are like empty circles that serve as holes about a foot wide. This seems to go up to the second floor, and this carving of the tree goes beyond. The sort of stone limbs end in these glass red orbs that glow very, very dimly within, almost like glass apples. That's where the light's coming from.
I'll just turn around back to where everyone else is.
Turn back, you can see Annis at this point just holding the door open.
Shall we?
This is where I would go.
Perfect.
You see Baba Inu, just the bun.
I'll try to stay. I'll try to stay close as well as my eyes can see,
Sure.
which isn't very well. And then she's also nearly invisible in the dark. So
Yeah, but and yeah, for sure. There's every now and then you kind of like step on Baba Inu's heel, or like you just kind of give it a little kick every now and then, and it sucks because Baba Inu's wearing like the coolest boots right now.
so cool.
Yeah,
Oh, after like 2 times of this, Baba is gonna have enough of this, and and then appears up on his shoulders again.
Ah,
Can't step on me up here.
so sorry. Yes, good idea. Better idea. Be my eyes yet again. Haha.
And she's gonna grab hold of his ears.
Oh, Jesus, not like that.
Sullivan's ears are like fully spread out from the, it's just like wind sails.
Wallowing, Walter, that hurts.
Annis, are you going?
It was Walter, right? That
Yeah.
was the
Yes,
okay.
yes,
I'm just
absolutely.
trying to use like a local adage, or what would be a local adage.
I'm Adam, just taking that down as a note.
And also, it's very fucking vanilla because this dude is charmless.
No,
Boogeyman
no,
man.
he is not charmless. Don't you dare say that about
No, you're
Sullivan.
right. He's got innocence charm,
So-
or at least like inconvenient charm.
Annis, are you going as well?
Yes.
Okay. Bunghole Steve, are you accompanying the rest of the group?
Mhm.
You make your way down this hallway. You, Baba Inu, on the shoulders of Sullivan, holding onto the ears like reins. You make your way down to this door. You go around the 90 degrees, and at the end of that hallway, there's a doorway. It looks to be almost like a closed rose, petals of metal overlapping. And as you get closer, Sullivan, you especially notice that these petals razor sharp.
Oh.
It looks like it closes like a bud and like almost like an aperture, and would open if you were to understand how to open it. That is what you see.
Well, Annis, maybe
Yep.
another little serving of your expertise would be helpful here. This door looks quite sharp.
All right.
And as you walk up to the door and looking for a place where a key might go, there is none. There's no handle, there's no knob. There doesn't seem to be a way of accessing this door, at least not immediately obvious, not on the door itself.
Want to take a look and see if I can find access.
Make an investigation check. Is anybody else doing anything?
I'm kind of, just for the sake of it, now that we're in a very unfamiliar place in a slightly tense situation, I'm just doing a once-over on all my companions, especially on Arquin.
Okay.
Just to see if we're all on the same side, because we did just break and enter, and that's very out of my comfort zone.
Make one insight check.
Mostly for Arquin, to be specific. That's
okay.
I was just kind of like, you're okay, we fought, you're okay, we fought together, okay, you haven't been very forthright, but this is internal monologue. Well, that sucks. 8, even with my +4. Boom.
He's kind of
Wait,
hard to read.
inspiration dice. Inspiration dice. I haven't used it yet. I'm using it now. For a 10.
So total
you-
of 10?
Total of
Total?
10.
He's
Damn
kind
it.
of hard to read.
Damn it.
His inflection is not very. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Fine, that inspiration was pretty stale anyways. It was from 2 sessions ago.
And you get the sense that he also very much does try to keep or maintain a wall between himself and others. Whether that's a part of the Bloodroot stuff or not, unsure. But no idea. Hard to read.
Yeah. Sorry, but I think I may do the same because I haven't done a breaking and entering situation since my 20s. And, I was in a little bit of a rougher spot then, younger. Thought,
Yeah,
I
make
was on top
a-
of the world, invincible.
Right, so you've been there, so you know that people who are comfortable with it have something going on.
Yeah, so I want to know.
Looks over at Annis as well.
I've worked with some
Make an
sketchy-
insight check. Yeah, for
sketchy
sure.
people in my past.
For sure. So now that you are all finally out of the lantern glow of the festival and away from the chaos of the docks, you
And
you
that
have,
fight with vampires in the streets, holy crap, that was scary.
Yeah, I mean, so for what it's worth, they did not turn to ash when you vanquished them, and so you'd imagine they're not vampires.
Ooh.
At least not. You saw one killed, and that's what happened to him.
True.
On white ash.
True, I golfed his head off.
You did.
21 for me.
Okay. For you, you look over and you can see Solwyn like just awkwardly staring at Arquin and just kind of shaking his head. You look over at Arkwinth, and although it seems pretty plain that Solon's not picking anything up, uh, the thing that is really interesting about Arkwinth isn't that he's kind of toneless or any of that. And actually, the only person that would really know too much about this organization is Baba Inu. But from the little that you've gathered, members of the Bloodroot Sanctuary are kind of a grim bunch. Uh, and this individual, for all of the stuff, he seems like he's fairly capable, hasn't really been pursuing the undead that are walking around the city, hasn't really been doing any of that, seems genuinely concerned about this person that he works with. And so, more than anything, that seems to be his goal, is to prevent whatever might be happening to her, and then also prevent this nonsense that's going on, this ritual. But he seems like he's on the up and up.
Okay, yeah. So overall, he hasn't lied per se.
Right.
Okay. All right,
Solon. And Baba's gonna pull out one of her daggers, and she's gonna poke Solon in the back, in the shoulder, just enough for one little drop of blood.
Ah!
And she's gonna take it. She's like, vampires. And she's gonna flick the single drop of blood at this door.
Okay. And what are you doing?
Seeing if it does anything? Any
Yeah,
reaction?
because Baba, if she knows vampires, which she doesn't really, but they like blood, and this is an ornate door, and sometimes vampires are over the top.
They're known to be a little dramatic or theatrical.
Yeah.
So, you take this little fleck of Solon's blood.
I just got this shirt fixed.
Yeah, and you can see in this shirt, this very nice white shirt, there's a single like red like splash across from that one cut, and then a tiny little prick that's now like very slightly spreading on the back.
My neighbor's a I don't know, clother. I like totally am failing on the word right now. What the hell? Taylor. A clother.
A clother.
Thank God my neighbors were close.
Yeah. Not like the nudists on the other side. Oh yeah, did I mention that? Yeah, I'm a nudist except shoes. Just kidding.
There is a nudist colony in Dominion.
Oh hell yeah!
Canonically speaking, you've met a character whose parents are from there, and they awkwardly said something about it, and then you guys never.
I know where my next character's from. Not there.
I think it's called like Nature's Glory or some stupid thing like that. But anyways,
oh God.
Neither here nor there.
Okay, let's stop all the jokes before they happen too.
Okay, so as you flick this little drop of Solon's blood, Baba Inu, from his shoulder, it hits the sort of bladed petals of this massive rose that make this door. And as it does, you see it actually steams and smokes, and you see from it this ripple, almost like a tracings of an arcane build or construction or more elaborate sort of setting ripple into the stone, like zigs and zags of energy that lead up into the second floor.
I told you, vampires are over the top. Too much.
I believe you now.
Too much. I had to use your blood. I'm sorry, sweetness. And she taps you on the back of the head.
Yeah, just like,
You're the normal human here.
Arkwin,
that I am
going to turn over and look at you, Baba Inu. I'm interested to know what would happen if your blood were to touch this door.
Okay. And Baba's gonna take the dagger and just think, and then just like on the hand, just like. Phew.
So, sure, little droplet of blood kind of just sinks into the perny palm, and almost like an ice luge, it just falls into a wrinkle and slides down to the tip of your finger. And as it beads up, you flick it. It just hits the door, and then you see it just kind of drip down a little bit. Interesting.
Now, was that the preferred reaction, or was the first one what we wanted?
I think once we follow the lines, we'll know a little bit more.
I'm almost positive that Selwyn would not have seen the lines, so he just goes, "The lines, the edges of the blades, right?"
He he reaches behind you, and you feel this pressure as he kind of digs his thumb into the cut on your back.
Oh,
He
why?
takes
Why
it
is
and
everyone so mean? I just want to help everyone.
on his gloved thumb, he shows you the blood, and then takes it and turns,
Yes.
gestures to the thumb, and
Uh-huh.
then presses it on the door, and you see little bits of steam, and then this kind of whitish. It's as if light kind of pulses through the stones, boom, boom, up, and then into the second floor, and you lose it through the rock. But um,
Oh, lines. You got it. Path, trail, line. Okay. The tree in the other room goes up to the second floor.
a good place to start. And he turns and begins to walk. The rest of you follow?
Oh yeah, I'm not staying in this blood graffiti.
Bobby, what was that you just did?
Turned my head
someone's
sideways.
head.
Yeah.
Oh, he turns
Yeah.
someone
It's like,
around.
ah, jeez.
All of you make your way down the hall. Is there anything that you guys wish to do before you return?
Mm.
Okay. You head back to this kind of room with a desk, and looking to your right, you can see past 4 sets of bookshelves, other books kind of around on the wall around them. This tree seems to be through a wooden door frame, no door.
I didn't go through that before, right? I just looked in.
Correct. Yeah. And
Okay.
and for what it's worth, if you were to walk in just to where the gargoyles and like look left and right, you can see this is a huge space.
Okay.
Roughly 75 feet wide in terms of the full room. It's a big open floor plan space, kind of using interior walls to break up sections. So you see to your left, there seems to be like a little, like a table and some chairs and some books and research spread out, like a little research table. Straight ahead is like a small section of books. To the left, you see a fireplace, although no fire in it, and some kind of like stuffed chairs around, all in like the dull glow of this red light. And then you see off to the right more bookshelves, another long table, although just the edges of it, and the rest is kind of a darkness to you. But you see all that with these old wooden floors here and there, these crimson runners that kind of help baffle the sound of your footsteps a little.
And we haven't gone through this door frame without a door yet, have we?
No, you haven't gone to any of these places yet.
Mm.
So for what it's worth,
I mean, I'll start walking in just to point
Oh,
at
no,
the...
you will not, Bubbles. Pull your ears back.
Okay, hold on. Let me just, because I don't know how strong you're pulling. Okay, I'll stop.
No, you will not.
Like, okay, sorry, it's just right there.
So at the moment, you guys are right where that says, oh, I'm gonna let this adjust,
oh.
where it says A.
Ah,
That's the desk. You guys went along this little curvy route,
Uh-huh.
this little L hallway.
uh,
You've not gone anywhere past
Okay.
here.
okay.
Here's the study section. Or sorry, it's reversed on the camera.
That's
Study
fine.
section.
Yeah,
Up
research.
in the
and-
top right, you see that little fireplace kind of deal.
Mhm.
Right
Oh.
there.
We don't see what that is.
Sorry.
Cool.
Fireplace deal. Tree right in the middle.
Mhm.
Books. You see another table. That's kind of where the end for you is.
Got it.
We have to be careful.
Okay.
Tricky
Uh,
people. And
how-
I'm gonna
how-
reach into the purse
Okay.
and grab out one ball bearing, and I'm gonna just rub it on the bloody splotch now growing
Ah,
on his back, and just
damn it.
flick it through the doorway.
You feel the scab that was forming tear, and
So fast?
Babagini just kind of digs this in second wind, man, and just rolls it along, and you're just kind of like flicking it through
Yeah, just gonna flick it through the doorway.
at the tree, or just kind of into the
Just
floor.
in general, just
Okay.
through the doorway.
You flick this through. It hits the ground. You hear ting, 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 and then the sound of metal rolling on wood before it seems to stop.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Thank you.
Safety is key.
Yes, thank you. And I'm just gonna like reach like in between you and my back and like scratch it. Just like, ow, damn it. Okay, just adjust, dust off pants. Here we go.
And as you adjust the tunic, it like sticks a little on that one part of your back.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you know it's there. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
I
you
walk
step in.
through and forward to get a better view as best as I can with my
Okay.
dumb eyes.
So walking forward directly in front of you, there are 4 sets of bookcases. They have a number of books that are some thicker, some thinner. If you had to guess, Selwyn not being that smart, there's probably a couple hundred books there.
Good ballpark.
Yeah, that's what's directly in front of you. And then past those bookcases, you see the doorway that leads to the tree.
Janice is interested in the books.
Okay. You can make an investigation check or,
I think I'd be a little interested in the books too.
make an investigation check as well.
See if there's any what is it like where are we again?
A library.
Dungannon Vogue
Oh.
situation.
Sure.
27.
27. Okay.
Oof.
11. I'm looking at the magazine.
Bunghole Steve, you look at this stuff and you lose interest pretty quick. It's history, but it's very specifically Dungannon related history, stuff that you already know. And it's kind of boring because it's not even like all the good stuff. It's only from the years 606 to 1201. So it's not even really recent. And it's not even like cool ancient stuff. You're not talking like Age of Dragons, Age of Giants. You pick up the first book and it's just like a agricultural record from the year 804, and you look at it and you're like, you close it, you walk over to a different section, and thanks to you, you notice the first thing, yeah, this is like a bunch of Dungannon history, and in and of itself may be interesting, but some of these books are a little weird. And you go over and you watch as Bungle Steve picks up a book and begins to leaf through it. The one next to that, you can see. Hang on, sorry, I lost my place here. This is a book that is called Edge of Perfection. And as you look at it, there is something weird to it. The pages are like too close together. So you reach in, you slide it out. And opening it up, this book, this green book, kind of like a green cloth binding that's worn. As you open it, it's been hollowed out, and inside, perfectly slotted in, is a meat cleaver. You're like, that's quite odd. You shut the book, place it down. You dig through a few more, and here and there are a few that are different. You find in the book titled Dungannon's Healers, a history. This red book that just seems to be made out of like a very, very fine velveteen sort of material. There's a potion of health, which you can add to your inventory if you would like. You also find the most interesting thing, which is a book called Wood Import. This is directly underneath the section that Bungle Steve walked away from. And it is years upon years of histories of wood imports from Everest. I should remember the names of the continents in my world. And other places from that direction. But this book, as you pull it, it's heavy and it's attached to the shelf. And as you pull it, that whole shelf kind of separates a little bit. And swinging the shelf away on old hinges, you reveal a shelf that slides open and reveals a great axe. The handle made from like a strange bluish metal, and the blade itself is like a quartz material. Immediately, as a magic practitioner, this is a magical weapon. And yeah, that is what you would find there. You also find, and Bungle Steve, you rolled what, an 11?
Yep.
So right before Bungle Steve picked up that book, you watched as the hand went right over another book. And as you look at that book now, you see that it was titled Bad Book. And kind of examining it, you do see behind it, there's a metal brace attached to it. And you would imagine, had Bunghole Steve maybe rolled a 10, something bad would have happened. It seems attached to a mechanism that seems to spread throughout that section. And as you
Okay.
go through all of this, Sunnies, you are realizing there are weapons and traps, perhaps, hidden through all the books in this place. And for you, very, very smart, there's about 172 books in this section alone. Expanding that through the rest of the sections of the library, you would imagine it houses somewhere in the order about 12,000 books.
What kind of a library is this?
I mean, a pretty good one, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
What
got
books?
a really awesome battle axe, damn, my dad would have loved that.
Yeah, it's a cool looking axe for sure.
Chances are there's a whole bunch of other stuff too.
Should would you, if this is a vampire hideout, I mean,
I
Might
guess
be
no
worth-
one checked out that axe yet, huh? Because it's a library.
checked it out.
You're
Got
here
it.
in the
Yes.
darkness, just this.
It's magical.
And then a maniacal cackle.
Yeah.
What did you say?
It's magical.
Does anyone object if I were to inspect that?
Hold on,
By
let
all
me
means,
get off of
violence
you
isn't my
first.
thing.
Thank you.
Baba's gonna get off and hobble down away from him as he goes to touch this.
I like that you don't use like the shadow teleportation for that. You manually climb down.
Yeah.
So
Making it as arduous and as impactful as possible.
Yep.
You want me to know that you're climbing up and yeah, riding me as a mount. Not only do you have two mounts on your feet, but you have a third in the form of a companion.
I mean, she's already stated it. She's looking for husband number 15. I'm just
Oh
saying.
gosh. Oh gosh.
anyways,
I'm gonna go
this is the Morrowind
Shut-
dating game.
shuddering a bit, and then yeah, this is like monster dating party or whatever. um, I'm the human in this one. Jeez. All right, I'm gonna just like shuffle over to it, like stretching my back a little bit,
Okay.
and sort of. You said it's magical. Is it gonna hurt me?
Do I get the sense that it's magically trapped as well, or is it just...
I would say with that investigation check, looking at the presentation of this, it seems as if, and it was pretty well hidden. And you're getting the sense that this is all like so this library, from what you've seen, has a single entrance. This place would be a wonderful place to defend. Looking around, it's two-tiered. You can see the first floor from the second floor. Now that you're kind of looking around a little bit more, there's a staircase on the left and the right that go up. So like there are only really 3 points you can get to the second floor from. There are probably like weapons and things hidden around here. So that were a fight to break out, and were there some people that were more familiar with this place, say the 3 that you fought in the alley, it would be quite an advantage for them to know where to reach.
No. Grab it, Solon.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm just like gonna.
You pick it up, and it weighs about what you would imagine it to weigh, which is interesting, as it is a magical weapon. It's cold to the touch, quite cold.
Is it hurting me cold?
No,
Okay.
but as you hold it for a little bit and examine it, it doesn't warm to the temperature of your hands.
Okay. I'm just gonna like heft it and be like, "What is your name?"
Do you have any way?
No.
Okay.
I just had like the mundane sword that I carry around has a name, and so I was taught by my father that all weapons have names, whether or not the wielder knows it.
So if it starts talking to you, don't trust it.
You guys already had your
I
chance for talking at him.
It can actually do that.
Try.
Some of them
Uh,
can.
Hello, sort of like the two stand microphone kind of looking thing. I'm just like talking into the head of the axe, like hello, and then just
I'm gonna use. Sorry, forget which one it is. Can I do?
I guess prestidigitation to throw your voice, right?
Yeah. Gonna do that. And just be like, hey.
Make Make a performance check.
Oh no, I believe it regardless.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm surrounded by like a teleporting little granny, a wizard gnome that can like unlock doors with hands and make someone like scared to death literally, and then Bunghole Steve, who's like a renowned magical performer anyways. Like I'm just like, oh my, wow, this is
Of
this
course
is
it's
quite the day. It said, hey.
Al, you're cutting out a lot.
Oh, hi.
There you go.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna turn back to it. What's your name? And I'm just gonna wait for it to talk again.
David.
That was weird, alley oop. All right, I
David,
set you up and
okay.
you gave me David. All right, let's go with it. Like, guys, its name is David.
I told you not to trust it.
Well, I haven't said anything personal to it yet. It just told me its name, so as far as I could tell, I got a leg up on this thing.
So Sullivan, as a fighter and somebody who's handled a number of weapons and really as a craftsman as well, the handle to this is adamantine. It's very, very strong material.
Mm.
Really
Alright.
hard to find. There's no
Yeah.
source for it in Dominion.
Okay.
The head of it, this quartz blade, seems to be where the magic lies.
Mm.
I will say, for purposes of just mechanical ease, you do know that this is a +1 magical weapon at least.
Okay.
Without becoming attuned to it or some kind of spell, you won't know the other properties right away.
Cool. And that takes an hour of trying to. Which obviously I'm enthralled by this talking axe, so I will be paying close attention to it.
Sure.
All right, David, you're coming with me. I hope that's all right.
I don't know why.
Whether or not you want to make a talk, that's fine.
Let me be. I'm in agony. No, I'm just.
You're too hot.
Oh God! All right, so you take this axe. Where would you guys like to go now? You find yourselves in this little section that you've kind of picked through. For your own reference, this is the section that you just went through. These bookcases in this C section.
Okay.
Well, I mean, our goal is to follow the lines, so I guess upstairs we should go next, right? Unless you guys want to poke around these books a little more.
I mean, there's more treasures to be had in the books, but if we want to keep moving on.
What if, now hear me out, we kill the vampires, if there are any,
Looking over to Arkwin.
and then after, we pillage.
Arkwin
this
turns
one.
to you and just says, "You can do what you wish with the belongings in here. That is not my concern."
As long as they don't summon more vampires, am I correct?
That would be preferable.
Ah, perfect. Then
Okay. Are there going to be more? Are they summoning? Is there any attempt? I don't know what's going on, to be honest. Back at the house, you guys seemed really riled up about something that you found in the attic, and you told me some information, but I just miss Butter or Bustleball.
I don't miss that cat. It was evil.
We're thinking the lady you were looking for is here, trying to resurrect that guy and point over to the statue.
So, following
The
the gaze, you do
relative
see
statue.
this vampire-looking statue. Very noble pose. You see holding a crown under their arms, similar to the painting.
Oh. Well. That would be bad, right?
Yeah, and I only have to assume time's a bit of a factor, so.
Yes, Solon. Vampires bad.
Well, right, yes.
So now that you and David are acquainted, it's maybe.
You know its name.
All axes are named David, you fool. Alright.
Fair.
One of my favorite things is that Allie, as a person, likes to cause trouble, but then doesn't think the trouble ahead. So it's always like, I'm going to give this thing a fake name. What name? Dave. All right. So
Love it.
you guys have
Faster
this
than I
axe.
think.
There you go. You have this axe. If you want, there's a staircase to the left that you could take.
I would be moving in that direction.
Okay.
I'm gonna look over to Bobby. Are the stairs dangerous too? You don't need to like do that again, right?
Don't tempt me with a good time. But you go first, I'll follow behind.
Okay.
I'd rather not get kicked again.
I'll like kind of use the axe as like a
Yeah.
sensor because I can't see shit in here. I'm assuming it's very dark.
So you watch.
I lost my dark vision too, so
At this point, yes, you've
I'm
lost your
just
dark
gonna light a
vision.
torch.
Okay. You light the torch in this
I
brighter
mean,
one.
rather, I'm gonna keep it a little dim. It's not gonna be like a.
Just turn it down a little.
I'm gonna actively
Just a little
stay
Okay.
spark.
far away from this
But
torch.
well,
as
Steve,
possible.
how are you going to keep this dim?
Spitting on it.
Spit on it. Yeah. Great minds. Great minds.
I'm spitting on it.
Even dim
Make
flames on
a-
prestidigitation.
make a-
Control that, can't I?
I think
make
prestidigitation
a-
allows you to do that.
I
know
feel like it's
thaumaturgy
does.
thaumaturgy.
Thaumaturgy does that, but
I feel like it's just thaumaturgy. I know you can make like fire effects or start a fire with
it's like
prestidigitation. So
No, I mean, I guess if I can't really control it, then it is what it is.
okay, so it takes place and sort of takes the darkness away, replaces it with this light that warms the space around you.
much better.
Yeah, and you can see a little bit better. You can see now very plainly on the left, like just in front of you as you were walking towards the stairs, this table with all this research kind of spread out on it, and with the light now on, I guess you could say, you can see there is like a book, a very very old book. You see like pieces of cloth that originally bound it together, vibrant colors, like a vibrant yellow, but now mostly falling away and patched. Do any of you read Celestial? Okay. Strange glyphs that are difficult to read, difficult to even look at. And then next to that, there is a scroll on this. It is this horrible white kind of furry hide. Something about it that looks like just maybe like a horse's hide. It looks, something about it just is bad to look at. It your stomach drops as your eyes look upon it. There is something innately bad, not even just evil, but something bad about this. It has writing on it. You can see like scrape through the fur, and it also twists. Do any of you speak? This would be actually Elvish.
I do.
So
That's that was my one extra.
Good
To
for
my
you.
man.
So Stolen.
It's like how I know French, like, yes, bone apple teeth.
Yeah. So you sent away for Elvish courses in your education. You did learn a little bit of it. You can see this thing, this scroll, you could call it, speaks a little bit about how one might break a powerful arcane seal, specifically one created with sort of a radiant backing. It talks about driving the stake through the heart of an innocent and skewering them through the center of each seal.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll be I'll be regaling this to my friends, but censoring it very like and you take the spike and place them on the seal. You know, the innocent. Yeah.
Solwyn, you are the innocent in this group.
Just like looking
Gotta
around.
have to agree.
You see
I
Arkland
mean,
think
I know
for a
you
little
killed
bit.
some people, but you know.
Right. Yeah,
Out
so
of
that I couldn't
booty.
be.
That would explain why your blood reacted the way it did.
I don't like any of this.
It's nice knowing you, buddy. I'm just kidding. I don't say that. It's
You
not.
would have been a good husband.
We all stand there.
It just starts like saying, "Yeah, what's going on? We're still standing here. We have to keep moving."
Suddenly, Selwyn, everybody but you pulls up these hoods. Roll for it.
God, if only. That would be amazing.
Let's also have buns, so we're all matching to Vader specifically.
Oh, man. Yeah. I'm here for it.
Okay. That's a great idea, by the way. Make one person, give the one person one story, and give everyone else a different story where you're just trying to like wait and get them to this
We
one
did
point.
that. We've done that. We did that
Yeah.
for a one shot with where my friend Hisham played a Dragonborn. Everybody woke up without a memory. They had to fill in their character sheets as they went, and the entire time, Hisham's character was the big bad, who had also locked his own memory away, so he couldn't give away his plot as he went. It was like this really complex 4D
Wonderful.
strategy. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Anyway,
All right. Well, after saying that, does this sound familiar to anyone? Useful to anyone? Because it's quite off-putting.
Useful?
I'd say a little bit of
Yes.
both. I mean, staking in the hearts and that kind of thing. Pretty cliche in the vampire stuff.
Right. But it sounds like the opposite of what you like, to kill an innocent, to break a seal that's made of radiant energy. And I mean, I may not know much about magic or anything, but it kind of sounds more like what kind of rituals y'all were talking about up at the house.
Yeah, it checks out.
Okay, so are we gonna have to save lives tonight? More than our own?
Depends on how fast you move.
Okay, let's keep moving then, because that's... Yeah, I'm just gonna, like, turn away from that scroll and just shudder again.
At the mention of how fast you move, Bobby, and he's just gonna skitter ahead of the group. Not using the shadow, literally just...
Yeah.
okay. You hear the feet on wood. You don't really see them move.
Anime circle feet.
Yep.
So you, for what it's worth, for everybody else, as you're watching Selwyn do this on this table, in addition, there are a few other books. There's also a little wicker basket, and it holds a couple of fruits. 3 strange kind of green-brown fruits that most of you have not seen before. That's it. You guys heading up the stairs?
Yeah, I'm not touching those fruit.
Yes. I would like to do so as much in the shadows as possible.
Make a stealth check, but before you do that, Anis, your passive is 18 or 17?
17.
17. Anybody else have a 17 or higher?
Perception? No.
Okay, so as you walk the stairs, in however stealthy manner you do so, you do get a moment where you can look through one of these circular windows that goes through the courtyard, and it lines up with another on the far wall. And in the far right corner, what would be the northeastern corner of this library, you see, at first you freeze because it looks like a gathering of figures. But as you stop and you really look, because this is right at the edge of your dark vision, there's statues as well. And you see matching ones to the entryway, but you see others. You have dark vision 60, right? We went over this. Have dark vision 60.
Correct.
You can see, aside from just, you see Ignatius Samathorn wearing the black crown made out of almost like a gold material. You can actually see glints of the red light kind of coming from the shoulders and the face. You see that humanoid with a squid-like face made out of pewter kind of off and to the side. You see all the similar ones, but then you see others that are less familiar to you. You see a frost giant that seems to be carved of magical ice, this statue. You see, from this distance, kind of hard to make out the details of the others, but seems to be 9 or 10 statues, kind of almost in a grid. What was your stealth check?
22.
Okay.
Where is Arkwinth in relation to me?
Upstairs, going upstairs with the rest of the group. For those of you walking upstairs, you do so without issue, climbing these stone stairways and reach the second floor. The top of the second floor, you kind of come to it's a huge open space. Not quite as big as downstairs, but there are no bookcases in this area. In front of you, there is a 25-foot wide, 8-foot tall door. This doorway is carved of brass, and it is intricate. You see tiny dials that show the day, the month, the year. There is a slowly spinning circle that has the moon cycles on it. You can see numbers and different dials that are gold and black. And at the moment, each dial, each day, each month is all settled on a golden number. You can see there are 5 gem-like orbs attached to these almost metallic like limbs or stalks around this door. You can see the tree, this carving of a tree, rises up in the middle of a walkway that is suspended across the courtyard below. Behind, you can see it's like a glass case or something like that, and you can't really see what's in it, but it's surrounded by 5 similar kind of colored orbs to the ones you see on the door. And then most striking about this place is that it is already kind of naturally brighter than the rest of the space, but as the torch comes in, it is bright because all along the walls are small hexagon tiles of like mirror. It doesn't seem to be like a manufactured mirror, almost like a mica material. And so it's not a clear reflection, but the light does reflect very well.
I don't like this. It's too bright. It's too bright. And she'll probably run around
Sorry.
and like break a couple of them. Not all of them, but she'll break a couple, so it's not as bright.
So it literally across this, let's see, this is a 10, 20, 30, 70 by 60-foot room, 8-foot tall ceiling or 10-foot tall ceiling. And then there are thousands of these little hexagonal mica pieces. But you go around, you
She's
smash
going
a
with the cane, just
Yeah. These rocks just breaking and clattering down. Perhaps it gets a little darker, hard to tell. What would you guys like to do?
Sullivan has no idea what's going on. David, what should we do?
Arkwinth, as soon as you listen,
David?
Arkwinth says, if the glow was to trace up here, it would go there. And he points at the glass case. That's where we should start.
I'm just gonna be like, what? Oh, right, different voice, of course.
And he
I'll just
turns-
sort of gesture and go, okay, on we go. And like look at everyone else.
Walking up to this, it is an orb that is nestled onto a pedestal. It's an orb of some kind of a crystal. And some of you, being arcane in nature, would get the sense that this is enchanted, certainly. But within there is a brass rose, very similar to the door that you see or saw beneath you. You can see it appears sealed like a bud, but each petal is also like a razor sharp kind of blade. You can see there is actually now dried, but still just faintly tacky. And Bobby, you notice this right away. A little bit of blood on each petal that runs down.
I told you.
The base of this pedestal is brass and ornate, and it has these orbs that match the ones that were on that huge brass calendar. You see one kind of like a ugly looking purple. You can see one that seems almost like a fire opal. Another that is like a shimmering blue purple, almost like a indigo would be the word. You see a vibrant green and then a dark, dull green. You also see on this, who is it that speaks Elvish? Just Selwyn? Selwyn, you notice that there is an inscription in Elvish, and it reads, "The spring of life creates many rivers. The banks of the innocent may nourish this bud and confirm your offering."
I'm just reading it out loud, kind of monotonously. And that's what that says.
Solomon, you know what we must do. It is time for your back.
I'm just like preemptively wincing. Just like, okay, if you think it's gonna work.
Gonna skitter on up and get a brand new dot of blood.
A fresh one.
So you go up and you just kind of shove this ball bearing right into Selwyn's back.
How many times of this is it gonna take for me to lose 1 hit point?
A lot.
Because I feel like it's just like might as well just do 1 hit point's worth and get it all over with.
We'll
It's
see.
like
We'll
a
see.
rock in my shoe of damage.
We'll see.
All right. Well, okay.
Got it. I'm gonna take a little bit of blood and flick right onto the brass rose.
So the brass rose is within this kind of crystalline orb. So-
I'm gonna flick it at the crystalline orb
You
that
do so.
contains.
It hits the orb, and you watch, almost hydrophobic. It just runs down and hits the brass on the pedestal and begins to kind of run before it stops and begins to dry as blood does. No effect.
She'll do the same with her, like she did before, and stab herself in the hand and flick some blood at it.
You flick it, and the drop, as it is almost hydrophobic, just skips across the top and into Solon's shirt.
Well, I'm out of ideas.
How- Mm. Do we have to open this?
What did it say? One more time.
It said, "The spring of life creates many rivers. The banks of the innocent may nourish this bud and confirm your offering." And that is on the brass within the crystal.
Sounds like we're gonna need a little bit more than a few splashes, in my opinion.
Everyone looks at Solwyn.
But like the banks of the river and the bud and something, and does that mean the trough that runs around the bottom?
We have to sacrifice the innocent.
No. What? No. Is that like this is all seemingly pertaining just to this orb, correct? There's nothing else around us where that seems related other than you were saying like a calendar?
Make a perception check. Yeah, there is this calendar, made of
Yeah.
the same material and seems to be structurally very similar to this orb. Yes.
A calendar on the wall, on the table. Where's it laid out? I don't
So hang on.
like
This is-
structurally similar in its like physical shape, or is
A
it like
slightly more difficult thing to censor. Hang on. So at the moment, hang on, let me get this nice and close. You guys came up the stair. One, it doesn't really matter. Either staircase.
one of them? Okay.
Well, in the middle, that's the tree, and it's kind of
Mhm.
blocking line of sight between K, which is on the top. That is the brass calendar door,
Mhm.
and on the bottom with all those little red numbers,
Mhm.
that is the crystal spear with these
Mhm.
tiny, colorful spheres dangling off of it.
Gotcha.
The walls are shiny.
Yeah. Does anyone think the calendar might be the better place to try this before we start cutting me open?
I don't think so.
I'd be willing to take a look with you. I don't.
Thanks.
exactly
Yeah,
wanna see
I'm
the
just-
place,
Thanks. I'm just gonna like sidestep away from Baba, like grinning,
I'll
like.
just be waiting.
You take a couple steps over towards this calendar door. And in doing so, getting closer, what are you looking for?
Well, the inscription in Elvish, I'll just be repeating over and over again, as it won't help me understand it better, but it might help others understand it better.
For sure. Okay.
And I'll try to, with that myself, or using that to aid someone else in figuring out if the calendar maybe has something more to do with it.
Okay. Make a history check.
Can I like help in
Yeah,
some way?
sure.
I'm old.
How are you
so,
helping?
You know.
Well, you know stories.
Yeah. I just don't know in what way I'd be helping if you're just like looking for history.
Well, does this sound like any of the songs you know, or any of the tales you've heard? Are there any sort of
Maybe.
Are there any sort of similarities in structure where
each of you-
meaning is buried underneath the
Each of
obvious
you-
words?
Make a history check. Not an advantage. Just make a flat history check, each of you.
3.
19.
That's why I'm
So
just being
you
the
do notice
living
something
document.
interesting. So, and you do notice that the date in this calendar currently lines up with the current day. Looking
This
at
is
all the gears and clockwork machinery, this is probably a operational calendar. But you know, it's correct. Well, Steve, looking at
Have you ever
this,
seen anything like this before?
I'll be honest, I've seen a few things. Never talk an axe though, for what it's worth.
This-
and I'll just turn away while looking at it.
this door, it is set to the current date, and you see that the current date's numbers are all gold. And this is the actual fast, like the number itself is crafted of gold and placed on. The rest just black ink. And that in and of itself is different. And you are beginning to suspect that this door only opens on a certain date today. And you can see where the sort of day-night cycle is. It is drawing closer and closer to dawn. The orbs that are on this kind of door, you see, correspond to the ones on the actual crystal case that the rose on the other side of the room is within. There may be a connection there. And given the fact that there has been a whole bunch of magic in this library so far, it is likely that there is magic involved. And knowing a little bit about this Daybreak Festival, you'd imagine whatever ritual is being completed beyond, it probably has to be done before dawn.
Annis, would you mind coming to check this out for a second?
I'll walk over.
I'm just gonna tell her the same information. Just
Okay.
point out what I found, and I think there's something going on here. Except for this isn't really my kind of magic, you know. So maybe you might have a better idea.
If you want, Annis, you can make an Arcana check, or
I do. I can't math. It's over 30.
okay.
Come on.
You look at this, and there is something that does make this a lot easier for you. You look at the calendar, but what really draws your attention are these orbs, the 5 that you see. There's something arcane about them, and your eyes kind of trace around at this. It's hard because the stone tree is directly in the way, but looking around, you'd imagine there's a link between these orbs, and they do need to be connected somehow. And you begin to think about this. What cantrips do you know?
I know Minor Illusion, Mind Sliver, Sword Burst, Mage Hand, Dancing Lights, Prestidigitation.
Okay. With Mind Sliver, when you cast it, and you've actually cast it, you have not cast it actually this campaign, correct?
Not this character.
Okay.
No.
So you've cast it previously in your life, and you've seen the kind of burst of damage that radiates out from this. The color of it is very reminiscent of one of these orbs. The third one, this kind of indigo orb.
What are the other colors?
You have this kind of ugly purple. You have this kind of fire-looking opal. You have the indigo one that you discovered maybe linked to psychic damage in some way. The other one is this vibrant green that speaks of maybe acid. And the final one is a darker green that speaks of perhaps poison.
I will point all of this out.
David, do you know any of that kind of stuff?
Now I'm sleeping.
Oh, sorry. I'll just sort of like pat the head of the axe. Just stand there, smiling. David can't help us, he's sleeping.
It's too bad.
It's weird. David sounds a little bit like Bunghole Steve now that you're kind of thinking about it.
They don't. I'm just gonna hold it up. I don't see the resemblance.
I'd be concerned if you did. So that's legit.
Pedal?
Hey, axe face.
Okay. I mean, so given this info, I mean, I don't like have poison and that kind of thing. That's not really my game, so I'm not really sure. I can like, you know, make fun of it a little. I can roast it. You want me to roast it a little? I haven't done a good roast in a long time. I'm a little rusty, but yeah.
Arquith narrows his eyes at you and he says, how are you going to roast an orb?
Like this. You're a shitty square. That's vicious mockery.
What is the damage type on Vicious Mockery?
Excuse me. It is a 1d4.
Like psychic, yeah. The type of thing.
You watch as
sorry.
Bunghole Steve looks at this orb and goes, "You're a shitty square." And suddenly the orb on this aperture turns and points almost directly at this kind of tree thing, and then slightly to the left. And there is this of energy, and then this beam of this kind of indigo light fires, hits a little mica crystal on the wall, and then bounces back and strikes the orb on this crystal, holding the rose in place. You can see there is this connection now, holding strong. You'd imagine, I will say, Bunghole Steve,
Right.
the energy in this beam seems very much intact, and so you'd imagine you don't want to touch it at the moment, but it is there. It is staying.
What about them apples?
You see Arquith just look at you and say, I don't know what to say about that.
I'd say good one. That thing sure looks embarrassed.
Yeah.
I am too.
That being said, it's about all I got right now.
Man, I didn't know that inanimate objects had such emotional contents. First this axe and now that orb. Well, does anyone else have anything that could do the others?
Baba Inu, not being the smartest, she stops and ponders a moment. Says, well, your blood did sizzle when we threw it at the pedal. You could have acidic blood.
Is this just another ploy to get me to draw more blood?
Oh, wait, does anyone?
If you're looking for a
Like,
husband, I would
maybe-
suggest.
Maybe I can show like real strong wine or something, and then maybe my blood will be a little infused. Does it work that way?
I'm not sure. Alcohol is technically poison, and so I'll get some of the. I mean, full well knowing that this is not going to work. I'm going to use some of my gimlet on the poison one. Just
So you watch as Selwyn pulls out this painted black bottle and pours a little bit of this kind of lime and juniper smelling liquid and just flicks it on this thing. And I'm going to say, you know what? Alcohol is ruled as a poison in D&D. And although it is not technically inflicting damage, I'm going to rule that as this
if you
liquid
drink enough of it, it
splashes-
can.
this liquid splashes, that's fair, splashes onto the crystal with this dark green color. The beam strikes the floor, strikes the wall, and then connects on the other side. Little drips coming down.
You heard it here first. It's official. Alcohol is poison. Also, what the hell was she trying to feed us from that cart in the town square?
I mean, mine tastes great.
It did
Arch's
taste really
eyebrows
good,
are
actually. I'm gonna
up,
just drink
and you can
some.
He takes his hat off and is just kind of like holding it uncertain under his arm. This is not the way that I did not think this was going to go.
Sure.
That leaves 3 left. You can see this kind of dark purple one, this fire opal looking thing, and then this vibrant green, which I believe you shared all the damage types, right? So it's necrotic, fire, and acid you are all looking for.
I mean, I'm holding a torch.
Bonghole,
Think
give me
we
your
just,
give me your torch.
Huh?
Give me a torch. I'll walk over to
Sorry,
the
I'm not 2 butts today. Sorry. That didn't happen.
I'll walk over to the fire one and use prestidigitation with the torch.
And so you see Ennis just kind of shakes the torch, and it's as if a mote of this fire leaps from the torch and settles onto the orb, flares to life, and you see this fiery beam hit the ceiling and then go down to the orb on the other side. Seems to work.
Pass it back.
How about the last 2?
Sorry, what were the last 2? Necrotic.
Necrotic and acid. Oh, I got it. I'm gonna snap my finger. I can't do both because I got an axe. I'm just gonna run downstairs.
Okay.
Bye. The innocent's leaving. If he leaves, who's the second most innocent?
And I'm gonna pick up the
You just hear that as you run away.
I'm gonna pick up the nasty scroll of innocent sacrificing
Okay.
grossness. And I'm gonna run back upstairs full sprint and just start smearing it on the necrotic damage one, being like, it felt evil.
No, it needs to be damaged. Give it a good slap it.
That's why I slammed it.
As you go up to this, you get closer to it, and the feeling of wrongness from this rolls over you. If you do want to pick this up, I do need you to make a Constitution saving throw just to pick it up, not to avoid an effect. It is almost at like
repelling me
at a primordial level. There's something repulsive about this.
Right. Okay. How's a 24?
You look at this thing, this fur, this hide, and although it horrifies you, you reach forwards, your hand trembling above it. And as you pick it up, you expect to see blood or expect it to flinch, and it just comes away in your hand. As you walk up, there is something, like each step, it feels as if it's like you're a kid and you're walking towards the principal's office. There's this growing dread with each step. It's hard to hold this thing, but you can carry it upstairs if you wish.
Yeah. Just running to get this over with, basically.
Yeah.
So you just like.
Yeah. So you see me run downstairs. There's like a moment, and you probably hear like a distant echoing from the downstairs chamber, and then I come just running back up, holding it, kind of almost looking away from it, and just like smear it on the necrotic damage one.
Okay. And as you hit the front part of it and it like strikes this orb, there is this very small burst, like say a D4 of necrotic energy, this purple, almost like a powder. Technically, it is not damage, but it is a necrotic effect, so I'm going to say that it works. And you see this orb kind of... as you drop it to the ground, I will see from the other side of it. Annis, make a nature check.
It's a natural 20.
Whoa.
For
This
25.
Little scrap. Was it for a total of 25?
Total of 25.
This scrap of fabric, it has characteristics that make you think it's a being not of this realm. But aside from that, even with that roll, it's tough to even look at. But it seems to have worked. And so for the moment, there's no single orb.
Bunghole Steve! Can you Can you
Say what a straight.
I've done that stuff since my 20s.
can you evacuate,
Got a kid. Sorry?
can you evacuate the contents of your stomach?
You,
I'm a little...
good thought. He is an entertainer, and that is kind of a cool party trick.
I was gonna try the fruit, but if that's how we want to try to do things. I'm a little embarrassed. My kid would be so embarrassed if she heard. Don't tell her.
Does Steve have any like long hair or anything?
He's a satyr.
No,
So.
he's kind of. Well, I wouldn't say like long hair. I've got like fuzzy legs, like
Okay.
hairy. You know, but
I
like
was
not
gonna say,
long.
Bubba would have offered to hold your hair back for you.
My legs. No.
Baba's got
Well, I
darling.
I think that's the wrong direction
So-
of evacuating your bowels.
It seems like you guys are thinking about different ends because I see where Bob is coming. You got the stomach bile. That's acid.
Oh, I thought you meant parts.
I know.
And then the leg hair. I'll hold your leg hair as you fart. What a kind gesture.
Oh boy. Yeah.
This is
I
so-
just get into like a position of Bob Andrews like, whoa! What are you doing? Oh, dude! Not in front of the turtles! The innocent!
Oh boy.
Not anymore. And I'm just gonna like turn my stone phase gaze away from this interaction and start walking downstairs towards the fruit. Should it not
Other
work?
end, darling. Other end.
Yeah, I guess I'll. You want me to puke on this thing?
Yes. Heave your cookies onto this one.
Alright. I did eat a lot of those chocolates and I had that hot dog earlier, so I
Chocolate is acidic.
think we'll be able to do this. Oh, wait, can I just take out a chocolate then and just like
Nope. You gotta commit to it.
Do you try that?
I love this.
well, like not with my hand at first. I think I'm just gonna like
You watch as Bundle Steve goes, pulls out this nice box and opens it up. You see, I think it's 9 chocolates left. You pull one out, like the size of a golf ball. This beautiful, very expensive, hard to obtain candy, and you throw it through the air, and it just and then falls to the ground. You see a small smudge on the, or no effect.
I mean that's expensive chocolate, so I'm gonna go eat it.
It's not dark chocolate.
Bundle Steve eats it off the ground.
I'm gonna pick it up. I'm not gonna
I
like
know.
Oh, okay.
How are you going to puke?
It really doesn't make it that much better. You're
I mean
eating.
it does a little bit.
You're eating chocolate off the floor of a dungeon that people are bleeding all over.
Yeah, that's
Well, one person
I guess
really.
I guess I'll try to puke on this orb.
Are you a
Okay.
sympathetic puker? I can help.
Wait, is there like a trash can around here? I'd rather
So,
like puke
do you
and
watch
look at
it?
it.
Baba
Like,
Inu just
and, like-
begins to regurgitate, I guess.
She's
That,
not
like-
actually. She's just making the noises
Okay.
because there are sympathetic pukers.
Oh yeah.
Who will
someone
puke to
pukes,
the
someone else
sound of it.
pukes, and then yeah.
So yeah, so she'll
Sorry, man,
help by doing that.
I work in bars. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Either way, still.
So, Bundle Steve, if you would like to make yourself throw, make a Constitution saving throw because it is tough to do.
Try to make yourself fail it.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, we'll see.
Alright, so I'm just rolling a Constitution saving throw right now?
Yes.
Have I obtained the basket in this time?
Yeah. So
basket
over the
of
course of this
fruit?
time, you
Okay.
can go down, pick up this basket.
I
As you
want to
do,
comedically
roll-
arrive just as Bunghole Steve is puking
Yeah,
and be like, "Here, I got the
Hey, what does keep your attention is that the books that are scattered on the desk, aside from the ones that you've seen, you pick up the basket and you look and you can see there are, across this dark wooden table, books relating to Lord Somathorn, something called the Hope Rebellion, something called the Dawn Court, and then just like some other books on old Dungannon history. But it seems very much like this is a research effort to break this creature out.
Alright. Am I puking?
She's kumbah.
For 10.
For 10? That's like right in the middle. I'm going to say you stick your finger in your throat and it doesn't come out. You
No,
have to like
I
pull
think
it
I'm
away.
just I'm thinking bad thoughts more and just like trying to be like
Yeah. Yeah, so you think back to the first time you ever worked the lowest rung at a bar and you opened up this bathroom after a long night of drinking. It was just something, and like first day quit. And it just, you think back to that. It almost
Train
worked.
spotting bathroom.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like people were doing gymnastics in here, just mid shit. But yeah, it's not a good time.
A chart
you
wheel.
think about it, nothing comes out. Unfortunately, you were unable to make yourself throw up. But Selwyn, you come up with this basket. You see Bungle Steve making these gross faces and kind of just sticking his tongue out over this crystal.
oh, thank God.
Here. I'll just hand you the basket.
No. Oh, that's not with the fruit?
No, it's the one with the fruit in it.
So you
Yeah,
want
you
me to
can
puke
see-
on the fruit?
No, try it on your idea, you said.
So you watch as Bungle Steve picks up one of these kind of like brownish fruits and just hucks it, and it hits the thing and just falls to the ground. A little dent in the fruit. Bits
So
of
you
the
gotta-
white flesh exposed.
Smear. What are these fruits?
So you go over and pulling it open, it rips, and you see white flesh and bright red seeds. These are pomegranates.
Try sort of like a juicer, just sort of like doing that on the order.
So you take this half of a pomegranate, and much like a juicer, because it is a sphere, you can kind of
Right.
onto the side. You juice this pomegranate onto this orb. Pomegranate juice is acidic, and I'll give you that. So as
We did it.
through a combination,
We mundanely disabled this magical trap. It's amazing.
That's right.
so as you
Yeah,
do
one
this,
for
as
the
you juice the
innocent.
pomegranate on, and these beautiful arcane orbs just with pomegranate juice and weird little
Liquor.
liquor, and there's like a this weird white fur from a different
goat
realm.
fur, yeah.
This is just a mess. But the
His
final
feelings are
thing,
hurt.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, you see like little tears coming out.
One
from
is just crying.
but you see the orb straighten up, and suddenly this final green beam straight by this carved tree, and then hits the orb. The other orb on the other side that connects to this rose lights up, and with all 5 of these orbs lit, you see the crystal over top this brass rose disappear, and you just see the metal now gleaming.
Now it is time.
I'm like, oh, we did it. Oh no, we did it.
And because it is 10:30, this is where we're going to take our break. I do want to point out, I gave you guys an entire library full of books with weird shit in them.
And things that we
No.
could have totally found. Yeah, absolutely.
And you guys are like, no, we're gonna puke on it, or we're gonna make a fruit juice on it.
Yeah.
This is coming from character, especially me who has like no arcane, like I have no spells, no nothing. I'm just like, how can I do this without spells?
Anise
Could have
is-
actually rifled through the place.
Annis is just guiding you through like Miss Frizzle on the magic school bus. This is just the one person who understands magic. Like, why is this my group right now? But it is 10:30. We're gonna step away for just a little bit to take a quick break, grab some water, use the restroom if you need. You'll see a little timer in the corner of the screen. When that hits 0, we'll be back. But until then, enjoy the beautiful art and the wonderful sound of our theme song. We'll see you in a little bit. Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the home of Adventures in Albaron and our current four-part campaign, Bloodroot. We are joined by Drew from Dicey Encounters, who is playing Baba Inu, the wonderful elderly Dampier gnome. We have Ali, who is playing the Satyr Bard by the name of Bunghole Steve. We have Miles, who is playing the human fighter, Sullivan. And then we have Tina, who is playing Annis Ironfoot, the tiny yet highly aggressive gnome wizard rogue. This group is currently infiltrating a library, a private library at that, picking their way through a variety of books, seeing items stored within, some trapped, some with things that might be helpful to you.
Dave the talking axe.
Yeah. You found a beautiful adamantine handled quartz bladed axe, a great axe no less, that seemed unnaturally cold. And with the Bunghole Steve's well thrown voice and just a little bit of magic, Sullivan, you currently believe that this axe's name is Dave. And he's sleeping.
But I still don't trust Dave, as one shouldn't.
Well, that's fair.
Never
Yeah.
trust Dave.
Never talk a trusting or what?
Never talk to trust in Dave.
Never act a talk and trust.
Never acts a talk and trust. That's right.
I'm sober.
Exactly. So you found Dave and you ventured upstairs. You figured out that you needed to connect these elements of a calendar to the elements of this similarly constructed brass rose in order to get the crystal guarding it to open. Instead of using spells like normal people, you decided to instead rub the hide of a defiled sacred animal dealing necrotic damage to one of the orbs onto it. You used a torch to light the fire orb. Bunghole Steve, you made fun of one of the orbs dealing psychic damage and thus activating it by calling it a shitty square. The acid orb was activated with the juice of the fruit or the seeds of a pomegranate, and the poison orb you managed to activate by dumping a gin and tonic on top of it. So, with your powers combined,
Round of eyes.
Yeah, what kind of captain would we have just summoned?
I've made this joke multiple times, but I think it fits the best here.
Very cool. Way to go.
this dripping abomination of an arcane lock now open. You see closed in an upwards bud the sharp, kind of razor sharp petals of this brass rose.
And it pans to my face, and I'm already wincing as I'm assuming Baba Inu's face slowly rises above my shoulder menacingly.
No, not her face, just the bun.
You have two options. Either I stab you, or you stick your finger in there and you prick your finger on the blade. Your choice. I will recommend, though, that it looks like there's multiple petals, and you might not come back with a finger.
Right. I guess I should trust your surgical accuracy that you have proven.
Get him.
Just give.
She was gonna do it anyway.
There's a reason there's 14 other husbands.
Is this how you court them? How well do they bleed? All right, fine. Do it.
I think she did.
Okay. Ow.
Yeah.
You have a slightly bloodied ball bearing, and you walk over. What are you doing? You take the ball bearing and you drop it on this flower, and you see the tiny droplet of blood touch one of the petals, and that petal slowly unfurls. You see the blood drop down through the central fold in the petal and into the center, and as it disappears, you watch a similar bolt of this radiant kind of light down through the floor, seeming to trace back in the direction of the door. One petal is now open. There are 4 remaining.
I guess it's my turn. Stab. And she's gonna stab her hand and get a little drop of blood.
Oh,
and
thank you.
drop
Oh,
it in.
You take this little bit of blood and flick it onto the rose, and as it hits, it just runs down, but the rose remains.
Baba immediately turns back to Zolan.
Wait, hold on. I think
Okay.
we can solve this a little better. There's probably like a little bloody patch on your shirt by now, right? Maybe just take the shirt off and give it a little ring instead of
Taking all
poking
the
him
fun
on it.
away.
Yeah, that's much preferable. I'll try to do that. I'll just, like, ring
You're
it.
just gonna like stand up and
You take the part. you. Someone's like, "Oh, you need the sleeve." Just tears it. Yeah. You.
So it's this kind of fantasy role-playing game now, huh?
Ah, yes.
no, you ain't bunhole Steve's time.
So
Fair enough.
you take this little bit of bloody cloth and wringing it out. There's a few droplets that onto the rose. No more of the petals seem to unfurl.
Ah. Well, I'm just gonna like kind of hide my indecency by crossing my arms and then put my shirt back on. Excuse me about that. Sorry. Um. What now?
I guess we go check the door down below.
You see Arkwith is going to step forwards and taking off a glove, he pricks a very pale finger. You see a single little drop well up and he touches one of the petals and that petal too unfurls. Similar reaction. There are two now open.
Is he human too?
Make a perception check.
Okay. Ah. 12.
Yep.
Oh wait. Yes, 12. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I mean, seems only fair, so I'll try.
Bunghole Steve, you go up and you prick your finger and placing
I've
a
got
drop of
calloused
blood.
fingertips from playing instruments, so don't hurt that much.
It takes you 2 tries actually to get through the callus, but you drop a little bit on, and another petal unfurls.
Hey!
2 remain.
My stuff's good too.
Okay. Just gonna look over at Annis.
Fine.
And as you walk up, same thing. And as you put your blood on, this other petal unfurls. You now have 4 open and 1 up. You can see with each one, this pulse of light, brighter each time, goes down towards the door that you know lies beneath you. But you have 1 petal remaining.
And Baba, your blood didn't do it.
It's a racist rose.
Did we pass anyone else on the way in here? Hey,
Where's
you on the street.
Where's the cat?
No. Not Bustle Ball. No.
For what it's worth, the cat is somewhere downstairs. It followed you in, but just wandering around the library.
Oh.
I'm just like making eye contact with Baba, going, no.
1 drop. That's all we need.
Okay, no. I mean, what?
That's your pet. You should go. You should do it. Make sure it's just a little bit. Doesn't need to be a lot.
I feel so bad. I'll go downstairs by myself into the dark.
Blood on its chin. There's fresh blood or something.
Yeah. Okay. Something about it being. Well, never mind. All right, I'll just go start looking for the cat, I guess.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Baba will
I'm not.
search for the cat.
I'm secretly going to be searching for like just spare files of blood or books about blood.
Okay. Make an investigation check as you look around for blood.
Yeah, just be
will
like, oh,
say-
where's the cat? I'm just like reading books. Like, oh, cat,
Bob is
cat, come
actively
here,
looking for
cat, come here, reading like the spines of
Okay.
the books.
Do me a favor then. Make an investigation check followed promptly by an animal handling check.
Oh. Investigation. Oh shit. 18, and then animal handling 8.
Okay. So with an 18, you look around, and as you walk through, you find a few sections of the library. You start calling for the cat. And at one point in the darkness, you do hear Selwyn, this kind of, wow. When you look up, you don't see the cat. But you've already kind of looked through the Dungannon history section, so you bypass that. You walk over towards the back where you see just countless bookshelves. It seems to be the primary area. This, as you get to it and begin to pull one after the other out, it's like a library dedicated to family histories. Just books upon books upon books of information on the various families and bloodlines. You don't find any traces of like direct blood. However, one of the things that you do find as you pull through with an 18, it's a book entitled A Bank of Names. And as you pull it out, it is a series of vials that have like dust in them. And as you pull it out and look, that seems to be perhaps dried blood. At one point, liquid, now just dust. But perhaps that would work.
We could spit on it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No. Water would probably do fine, and I'll just sort of carry them back upstairs and pour
way back
from
on
my.
Pablo. We'll just
And right when you come up with it, and
Make
I
an
say,
animal
"Hey, just
handling check,
be like,
Bobby.
you need me to spit on it?"
That's an 18.
So, Selwyn, you take this upstairs.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna like water skin, just fill a little bit just to get it damp.
You fill a little bit, and you watch as the powder kind of rises in little bits to the top. Some of it stays at the bottom, and then parts of it begin to sink towards the bottom, and you see little
Shaking it.
red trails.
Just
And you
shaking
shake
it.
it, and yeah, it
Yeah.
gets to be this kind of murky red color.
Wait for the cat thing.
You go upstairs. Baba Inu, you now in the dark, in this dark space, your eye is easily able to scan through it. As you call for the cat, you see at the other end of the library, peeking its head out. First, you see the little of the tail, and then you see the reflective eyes peering at you through the darkness.
Come here, you little evil creature.
You see it just pokes out and approaches you and gets up like within a foot and then just kind of flops over on its side, and the tail swags back and forth.
I will gingerly pick it up and hold it at arm's length away from me and skitter up the staircase.
As you are walking up the staircase, it squirms a little and seems to kind of like resign itself to being stuck. It goes over and like kind of just licks. You feel the sandpaper texture as it licks your thumb a little bit.
And I'll dump the vial of blood onto the last petal.
And you watch as it splashes out, the petal unfurls, and this rose twists and turns, and you watch as it sinks into this pedestal. Just one sec to pull that up to make sure nothing bad happens. It's complicated because my handwriting's not great, and the notes are all handwritten because I was on a beach, and that makes it very complicated. Okay. And so you hear downstairs the sound of a like metal grinding together. You would imagine the door does open.
Oh, bustle ball, there you are. I'm just gonna go and like pick up the cat and start petting it.
Yeah.
It's your lucky day.
Yeah. For a black cat.
Oh, I heard they're bad luck, you know.
Not this one. I don't know how I'm holding an axe while I'm doing this, to be honest. I think I'd just be like,
I'm sure you put David down. He's sleeping.
maybe I could like
Tucked it in.
trying to think what would be a way to do this. I think I'll just like hold the axe by like the middle of the shaft and just like sort of having it go crosswise. That's how I'm still carrying it.
Okay.
And I'm just like holding the cat like this with the axe in one hand. It's a very awkward, very uncomfortable looking
So
kind of
you
situation.
hold the axe into your chest and kind of are petting the cat with the other one.
Yeah.
I hope you put your shirt back on.
I certainly
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
You did.
It's an odd image.
Yeah. Yeah. The shirt over my shoulder and all of this going on.
That's like no good.
Oh God,
So
I
what
don't
do you
want to
guys
see
do?
a calendar of this character. Should we go check the door?
It's open.
Ah, good, good, good.
You scamper down, Baba Inu, and the rest of you follow?
I'm not scampering though.
Okay.
I can't scamper.
Fair enough. You retrace your way down the stairs, past this cold fireplace and the overstuffed chairs around, past the study section, um, back into the main circulation desk, and then through the first door. You move around and you see this kind of rose like door is now open. Um, it has bloomed, and there is a room beyond. You can see this space, kind of a weird shaped room, fairly spacious, a little bit of a narrower ceiling. You can see that there are four like stone quarters of an overall stone circle, and when put together, they form the seal of Old Dungannon. They look as if they withdraw, and it might form like a trap door that goes down beneath that. You can see. That's kind of all that you can really see. There is next to this sort of circle and the four slices a kind of arcane orb, and it does cast a little bit of light. And as you enter the space, if you do choose to, it grows brighter and casts light across this entire room.
If that's the case, for what it's worth, I'm gonna put out my torch.
Okay, you put out the torch, and the light remains roughly the same.
Okay. Just don't need to draw any further attention.
Sure. Also worth noting, when you look to the left, you see a part of the wall, a little crack around it. Anybody with a passive perception of 12 or above will see this. It is a little seam in the wall, and if you were to push it open, it does open a section into the main library itself. This is a shortcut that brings you out to a part of the library that you didn't go into. You saw all the statues of those figures to the right, but it seems to be just a quick way into the library or a second way out of this particular room.
Is it easy to open?
Swings open. The bookshelf seems hollow, much like the bookcase that held Dave.
Does you said it's like open a crack, or
Yeah, right
is it
now it's
just
open a crack. But if you'd pushed it open, you can see
Right.
into it. It's just a
well
5-foot hallway that then leads to the library beyond.
that it's open a crack, and I looked to Bustle Ball. You didn't open this, did you?
You see one of the eyes closes almost like a wink before it just licks the paw and kind of starts cleaning that part of its face.
You sly devil.
I'm gonna cast Detect Thoughts on the cat. No,
Okay.
I don't. Truly,
Okay.
I do not
That's fair.
do it.
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't care. I'm indifferent about the cat.
I'm going to investigate to see if there's any traces of someone having been through here recently.
Make an
Who may be
investigation check.
spying
Yeah,
on us. Because now I'm like, oh shoot, of course there are eyes behind the eyes in a painting staring at us in a creepy library.
Make an investigation check. Is anybody else doing anything as Solon begins to look around this room?
I would like to do similar, but I don't think it's going to matter.
So,
Nat 20, which is a 20 for what it's worth.
Solon, you take a second to really take in this room. You look at the ground. You can see there are bits of dust. It is not a well-traveled room. It does appear as if somebody has descended recently. You look over at these 3 quarters. You can see that they do pull away into the floor, and you probably can descend. There's something else that hasn't been done. There's 4 quarters to this. So you think about that number, and it does seem like numbers are somewhat significant. 5 innocent people, 5 petals for the rose. Maybe there's a connection to this 4. But at the moment, I'll say with a natural 20, you look at this other kind of like opening into the main library, and I would say that's kind of all that you could really pull out. But you get the sense that, yeah, somebody has been here within maybe an hour or two. You think back to that blood that was up on the flower, probably had been put there maybe an hour or two, just a little bit tacky still. So
Mm,
that would track. It seems as if somebody else has come here ahead of you.
mm. And so 3 of the 4 slices of this door are like, what were you saying? What was
All
it?
4 slices of the door are closed.
Right.
All that you really can think is that there are these 4 slices. The
Mhm.
number seems significant in this
Right.
place. You had 5 petals, and that required 5 innocent drops of
Mhm.
blood. So probably something related to the number 4.
Okay.
Is there anything arcane in this space?
How are you discerning that? Just looking?
Looking, but like walking around, really taking a good look at things, I guess.
Make an investigation check, but even as you're doing that, this kind of orb in the middle that sheds the light, that's arcane.
It's 23.
You look around, and the only real arcane things that you note, this orb, while it does shed light, there is a link to it. You get the sense that it is connected to this doorway as well, probably a defensive measure of some kind. You'd imagine forcing these doors is probably not the best idea. Um, it probably will have an arcane reaction. And you get the sense looking at it, looking at the way it's positioned in front of the door, you get the sense that this thing is probably going to emit a pulse that will knock you all the way back down to the end of that hallway, which is roughly 50 feet and into the wall beyond.
Mm.
Um, that would not be fun. And that is really the only arcane thing that you see.
And this room is just barren otherwise? Just
Uh,
like stone walls, no paintings, no drawings, no objects.
as far as you can see, it doesn't seem to be anything. This seems to be very much an entryway to something else.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I'm
Can
going
I-
to repeat the elvish inscription from before about spring, something life, something rivers, something banks, innocent, confirm, offering. I just wrote keywords down.
What Sullivan
Because it's
told
too much too fast.
the spring of life creates many rivers. The banks of the innocent may nourish this bud and confirm your offering.
Now, does the sigil of the house have depictions of spring or rivers, anything like that on it?
No, so the old seal of Dungannon is this like so the current flag that you've seen, it's a field of gold on top, and like so it's two split gold and black, 2 bars. Over top of that, there is this kind of silhouette of Castle Koch, which is the old seat of power. Like like OG Dungannon prior to the rise of King Samathorn. Um, this particular sigil, all that it has is the color. Well, the colors would be reversed, you imagine, as it's like a fuller crosshatch and a less crosshatch section.
Mhm.
But on top of it, it's like almost like a skyline that you don't recognize.
Hmm.
But nothing that hints at the number 4.
Hmm. Do we think it's even related to this room? Should we check back through the secret door? And
Arcane
as no
potential
one's
comes
saying
around.
anything, I'm just gonna start like tapping each quarter panel of the door, like a Simon says.
You do that, and they are certainly. You hear an echo beneath. They're hollow. There
Mhm.
is something beneath, but nothing happens aside from that.
Okay.
Arkwood nods to you and says, "There is something more that we need to do."
Right. Does it have anything to do with the tree? Maybe.
He kind of pushes the secret door open and begins to walk into the library to look around.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I would be heading.
Okay.
How many statues are there?
Where?
No, how many like figures?
Where?
So
In
when you
the,
walked in,
in
you
the
saw
entrance?
4 statues in the entrance, one in each corner. And then beyond that, there were 2 gargoyles. And then the far right corner of the library, way in the back, only Anna saw these 9 statues.
Okay.
But there were 4 in the entryway.
I mean, I don't know, but I'd have. I don't know.
All right. Still too dark in here. I'm gonna go over and like start trying to light a fire in the fireplace.
Okay. You cross over the library to the other side. As you do look down to the right and across this long table and all the way on the other end to the light of these dim red glowing kind of glass fruits.
Mhm.
You see a number of figures. You see 9 different humanoids or monsters,
Mhm.
um, posed in various ways, made of various materials.
Mm.
It looks like an art installation.
Hmm.
But crossing over, you go past the study section and then to these 4 kind of overstuffed chairs around a fireplace. Um, if you there is no logs, and actually worth noting, it's a very clean fireplace. Doesn't seem as if there are any ashes. Doesn't look used necessarily, at least not recently.
Or at least
Um,
used as a fireplace.
correct.
Okay. I'll hopefully fruitfully start to. Well, I'd have my like flint and steel or whatever ready and just be like, huh. Well, that's weird, and just like start looking in and around and investigating
Okay.
this fireplace.
I actually got the statue.
Make an investigation check for the fireplace, and then Bunghole Steve, you're going to the entryway, the 4 statues there, or the 9 statues in the back.
I'll start with the 4 just because number 4, but then I'm
Okay.
gonna look at the other ones too because I haven't yet.
Sure. So Selwyn, what was your investigation?
3.
You kind of get into the
There's no logs.
fireplace, and you can see there's a flue, like a metal flue, a little rusted that's closed.
Mm.
You see the lever, and you look up, reach up, and you open it, and all this soot just into your eyes. There is this of black that kind of comes out. It's old. This is like ancient. This is burned a long time ago. You don't find anything hidden, but you are now dirty.
There's like definitely spiders and stuff in there.
So the cleanest amongst you, wearing the finest clothes, now
Ugh.
soot in the face, all down the front. There's blood
is-
stains in different parts.
That's
I
one
just sort
way
of,
to
like-
join the shadows.
I just like start trying to smear it off and just. At least I could afford new clothes with this gig that we're doing.
Always the optimist. Bunghole Steve, you go to the entryway and you look at these statues.
I think I know that clother.
That's true. I have it written down. I'm going to do a whole thing after this.
I can't believe it.
These statues,
Taylor.
each one in each of the corners, you can see one of them, the Vampire King, Ignatius Samathorn, is the northwestern corner. The northeastern corner has this humanoid figure with like the tentacle kind of chin. That is in the northeast. And then in the southeast, you can see this humanoid figure, really rugged looking, real mean look in his eyes. And then, and actually, you know what? You're a bard. You would recognize this figure. This is the wolf. This is a legendary figure in organized crime. Worked one of the very few known members of the Smiling Circle. This kind of infamous, brutal. This is like the mafia of Alberon, and of Alberon, not Dominion. This is a worldwide syndicate. But a very well-known criminal figure. And then the final one in the northwestern corner is Wallowing Walter, the dragon turtle,
Yes.
who is rumored to be chained to the bottom of Dungannon Harbor.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know.
what to do with that information regarding current puzzle.
Okay. So you spin around, you go look at the other statues in the back. As you're doing that, Baba Inu, Anis, are there things that you guys are doing?
I want to go investigate the like glowing red apple looking things.
Okay, yeah, make an investigation check.
Does it seem like we're gonna be here a minute? Just looking around and the way the group is moving.
Sure does.
16.
Okay.
I'm gonna start ritually casting Detect Magic.
Okay. So you sit down, you begin to just scrawl things out on the floor. Baba Inu, as you investigate, you walk into this courtyard. This tree, beautiful, carved of stone, rises up and to the second floor. It's kind of what joins these two. And hanging off the branches are these beautiful glass orbs. They glow from within, this faint kind of glow. If you get close and you kind of hold a hand under one, they glow a little brighter. As you pull your hand away, they go back to their kind of static, dull glow.
I'm gonna pick one.
Okay. You reach up, and as you pull it off, it just shatters. Very thin glass. The light goes out in that one.
That was satisfying.
I feel like I would turn at that sudden shattering sound. Like, what the? Oh. How are you reaching up that high?
She's like skittered up the base of the tree and like walked on the branches to get to it.
You're upside down, just.
So, Bunghole Steve, you walk to the back corner, and here you come upon a art installation. You can see in common there is a title that says "Sleepers of Dominion." There are 9 figures, each very large, like a life-sized, U-sized statue. So some of these figures, the humanoid ones, are life-size. There are other ones that are probably scaled down. I would say, as a bard, you know that each of these symbolizes a entity that is dormant in Dominion, like a legendary creature. This is almost like the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, like all of the cryptids of Dominion. And I would say you make a history check. You do recognize the golden statue of Ignis Samathorn wearing a black crown. You see the pewter statue of this humanoid with the weird chin, a limestone carving of Walter, and you see a concrete statue of a very feral looking man. Those all match the ones that you saw in the lobby.
And I got a 22.
Okay. You see carved of magical ice, a frost giant, whose name I could dig up for you. It's in my lore binder because it's from
The Lord Binders Academy.
Yeah. Well, so that's kind of where Lord Binder came from. But yeah, so there's a whole binder that is it's 3 ages worth of actual written history. So it's like
Right.
6,700 years of history. And it has the actual name. It's from the first age. I'll get it for you later. There is a massive drake-like creature with a spiked tail, an owl's head, antlers. This one's carved of wood. There's a horrifying insectoid of brass, very heavily patinaed. Seems to be like a weird demonoid of some kind. There's a black marble sculpture of a spider, large, kind of multiple clusters of eyes around it. And then there is a twisted cat-like dragon carved of a purple quartz-like material, very cat-like in nature. But all of these represent different dormant creatures in this place.
Well, dumb. I still don't even know what to do with that information. I'm just gonna be sick. Feel cool.
Make a flat intelligence check, Bunghole Steve.
I'm gonna be approaching, and I'm gonna.
I'm a little brain dead. So.
I'll come over and stupidly help you.
Make it that advantage.
Like I gotta come over and I'm gonna like just lean on one of the statues of like, I guess Samathorn, or that's one of the ones out front, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just like
so
lean on it basically and like, hey, what are you doing over here?
the front
Thinking.
row is from left to right. It's Walter in the left. Then this twisted cat-like purple dragon in the middle, and then on the right is the golden statue of Samathorn.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I rolled a 19.
A 19. So thinking about this, do you think about kind of how these are organized? They are in a very particular 9-point grid, and you watch as uh, you watch as Selwyn leans on the statue, which is probably close to like 500 pounds, and it slides a little bit, just like an inch before kind of rebounding. These statues move. When you look at them, you can see that Lord Samathorn in the bottom right corner, if you were to mimic the entryway, should actually be in the top left. You get the sense that these statues move, and you could rearrange them.
Hmm.
All right, well, I'm gonna go to the fireplace. No, I just.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
What else?
Selwyn.
What else is
Oh,
there?
all right.
Did you feel that?
Yeah,
Is that vintage soot?
I don't think I broke that. What? Is there something on my face?
Yeah, when you leaned on that statue, and I'm gonna push someone next to
And
me.
you can see the statue wobbles a little bit. This huge, probably gold-plated statue.
Think what I'm thinking.
It's moving. It can move. What are you thinking?
I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm so tired. Sorry. Don't look
So, anyways, what she's thinking is to slidey puzzle rearrange them all to the original organization that's in the front lobby.
Like Skyrim.
Where's that?
Jeez.
So,
Wrong hole.
thinking about this, in the corners of this, as this is a 3x3 grid, there are
Mhm.
9 statues, and that
Yeah.
would form 4 corners. Currently, if you were to think about this mimicking the front hallway, in the top right-hand corner is this tentacled chinned figure, just like in the entryway. And in the bottom left corner, there is Walter, just like the entryway. The two that are out of place,
Yep.
left and the right. You know where the vampire is. It's in the opposite corner that it should be.
Right.
The
Are they on tracks, or is it like, can I just slide them through? Do I have to like do the whole like slide one up, slide one over, slide one down, slide one back, slide one? You know what I mean?
pushing it with some force? They do not appear to be on tracks. These are 500-pound statues that seem to be moved. Given everything else that's happened around here, probably Selwyn wouldn't figure this out, but
No.
probably by magic.
Yeah. Like, wow,
Um,
these tracks are really well hidden.
You can't seem to find a way to get them to slide.
All
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna start
Hmm.
moving stuff around appropriately.
Okay, make an athletics check.
I mean, what?
Selwyn, make an athletics check as well.
What do you mean? What?
What you doing?
I'm the
Shouldn't help you out.
I'm the pusher. Oh shit, that's gonna be good.
I got a bad
I can
back, so I'll
help.
try.
Look at me go.
I got a 15.
But you just pushing a different statue than you guys are. But between the two
She
of
pushes
you,
a vase over.
yeah, you manhandle this golden statue out of the grid and kind of slide it around the corner. It's heavy, and you have to kind of like
It's all right. My
walk it over.
27 is gonna help.
Yeah. And so as you kind of are pushing a bundle, Steve, you're beginning to sweat. Your horns glistening with the base with perspiration. Selwyn really kind of leans his shoulder into it. And instead of walking it, all of a sudden there is this awful, and you can see like a divot in the wood, but you're moving it and you kind of move it over. You have to slide the statue out of place, but with that roll, I'll say no problem. In the top left corner, there's a statue of a frost giant carved of magical ice, and it's cold to the touch, but you slide that out of the way and you lug this vampire in place. The final one is this feral humanoid, which is at the center of this group. Having vacated that corner, you can slide that no problem.
Perfect.
As that creature kind of links into place, and I think you guys heard of him as the wolf, you hear those 4 stone quarters kind of slide in the floor.
Wouldn't that be happening like right next to Ennis?
So if Annis didn't go, yes, but so that you guys can see where this is occurring. So this is the grid.
Hmm.
This is that secret passageway. This is the doorway. Annis is like somewhere around here. The
Right.
rest of you guys are all gathered around this area. Imagine Baba Inu is like over here pushing a vase off a table.
And you say the cat is the evil. It's a very cat-like thing to do. Just
So
Alright,
are you guys
heading over to
return
the
to
door.
There you
Just opened.
go. You head over to this door. And as
Was
you
there
do,
anything in the vase that I pushed over? Anything good?
make an investigation check.
Okay, I will.
Begin
a
sifting
natural
through the-
20 for a dancing sword.
All right, investigations plus 0, but that's still an 18.
Nice.
I'll take it.
Give me a second here.
That's what my
So-
investigation one was earlier when I rolled an 18. That plus 0 life, man. Not the greatest.
love it. Give me acrobatics or anything deck space. I got you all day.
It shatters in the ground. As you kick through it, you see this beautiful green gem. And as you pick it up, it looks like a prism almost. It's like a perfectly cut. It looks exactly like a rupee. And as you pick it up, it was a glass ornament, and so the little cracks that formed as it fell just shatters in your hand.
Oh,
Mine. And she's going to put the shattered bits in her purse.
Okay, you can add a handful of green glass, parentheses, slightly bloodied.
Ooh. Perfect.
It's your blood.
keep grinding it together, and then you have green pocket sand.
Yes.
It's
Surprise!
weird though. When you eat it, you expected it to be lime, but it just tastes like blood also.
It's very iron based.
Yeah.
Guys, got a good weapon for you to just have like a bunch of glass shards.
In
You're
her
like, you can't
purse.
see me. And it's just like, oh my god.
Try me, vampire. Have at thee.
Man, I would love to see that. So
You have
anyway,
to do it with a flourish, because I'm sure they're already pontificating in your general direction. You're like, oh yeah, well, whoa.
Or you just jump on their back and you're just like,
you walk down. There's a staircase, and you can see it leads down to a beautiful yet very dark, kind of cast some shadows as it is dark in this room beyond marble floor. There is a faint sheen as if there's a glow coming from above, perhaps a ledge preventing the full light from coming down. The stairway is wide that you see down to it, disappears to the left and the right in either direction. So it's at least 15 feet wide. You don't hear anything.
Can I skitter along the walls and up to the ceiling to go investigate this glowy bit?
Careful.
Up to the ceiling. And
Be
then you see
careful and be
Bobby
hidden.
scuttle
I'm going to
along the top.
poke it.
You go down this little hallway and then up, and as you enter, you are in a huge room. It rises up the staircase, maybe 30 feet. Only like a few stairs that are long, like 15 or like about 65 feet wide each stair,
Wow.
running basically the width of the room, and it climbs. It is a grand staircase, although fairly simple. As you are on the wall and then climb up onto like the ceiling is in total maybe like 20 feet up, so it's up there. But as you climb up the wall, you do see the room beneath you. There's a crystal clear pane of glass, crystal, some kind of material that is see-through. It is up at the top of the stairs, and through it, you can see this large, ornate room. You see what look like almost like tiki torches all up and down the left side of this sunken in room. There's a staircase that would make you think there's a raised section off and to the west. You see 5 figures, each kind of kneeling or laying down in these dark circles. ritual circles, you could probably guess. You see the very far corner of the room, an elaborate organ, like an organ piano kind of deal. There's a doorway in the far part of the room. There's a glimmer off to your left, and turning your head, you see a number of strange glyphs, like a 5x4 grid of them. Never seen anything like it.
Do,
You
do
see a
the
little,
do the figures in these circles appear to be alive?
at least one of them, you see kind of shuddering, but from this distance, hard to make out.
Ah. I gently shout back to the group.
I think it's safe.
Amazing. Our production value goes up from just having Drew on. It's great.
Fucking wait, push the other button because that was a
Very cool. Way to go.
yeah. uh,
Miles, when we're back in person with the new mixer, you could do all this.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get like an iPad with like some sort of sound launcher on it.
I got one. Don't worry.
Cool, good.
We're all set for in person. Don't worry.
All right. Well, hearing that and firmly trusting the woman who's literally stabbed me in the back, I'm going to proceed downstairs as cautiously as I can, looking at everyone, being like, "Let's go, I guess. Time's a wasting."
Oh, there's people, by the way.
Oh,
All of you, because you have passes better than Soul would hear that. But you, if you would like to, one by one, make your way down these stairs.
stealthily.
Yeah.
You get to this grand staircase, and if you wish to climb it up to the top to get to where Baba Inu can see, you would see there's a long. Oh, here, let me.
So it's like we go down and then we go back upstairs to like a observation deck glass thing. Is that what I'm supposed to imagine here?
So at the moment, you can see K is the doorway where the stairs are that you enter. You can see the very wide staircase above that.
Okay.
And then there is this long kind of, it's like an observation deck that then leads to a sort of larger observation area to the side.
Okay.
Where you see L written is where there's a large grid of glyphs. And those glyphs, they do have a title above them in common, which reads Wall of 21 Hexes. And on the, I know. And on the floor, gosh, you can actually see there are a variety of very strange looking symbols. And I'll actually take a picture and send that in the Discord.
Love that.
All right. Just gonna like wave Dave at it and be like, I don't know what to make of any of this.
Yeah, Dave seems to be
gesturing
of a similar mind.
Huh?
Dave seems to be in a similar state.
Right. Oh, sorry, you were sleeping. Hello.
Okay, so I sent that to One Shot Planning. It's not on Imager, so if you would like to see this tomorrow, go over to Instagram and check out @Alberon RPG, where we post a lot of these little handouts and things like that. But for the players, it is in our One Shot Planning and Discord. You see a large number of very strange looking sigils. I will say for all of you, none of these mean anything in a language that you speak.
I like the duck.
Oh yeah, the duck is a good one. I was proud of the duck.
Does it mean anything to me from an arcane standpoint?
Make an Arcana check. Wall of 21 Hexes does sound magical, for sure.
Does the duck mean anything to me as a lover of most animals?
Make a nature
Except for cats.
Make a nature check at disadvantage. No, make a nature check.
26.
The 20 Okay. So first with the 26, looking at this, these symbols in and of themselves, no, nothing arcane about them. But looking at the wall, looking at like the space between these things, there is something arcane underneath. Each of these tiles seems to correspond with something. And you would imagine, as you look ahead, Though it does seem like on the other side of these tiles there is nothing, just kind of like this deck that expands onward. You would guess there's probably a barrier of some form there. You don't see it, and so that might hint at what it might be. It's not a wall of fire, uh, but that is what you would get. From an arcane standpoint, anyways. And you'd imagine probably abjuration in nature if there is magic here. Well, you look at this duck, the symbol that appears to be like a duck, and it has a single foot and 2 red dots, and that's about all that you could gather from it.
Good enough duck for me.
Yeah.
I look at it and just sort of stand back.
Put 1 foot up. Imitate the duck.
There's only 20 hexes here. This title is a lie.
What if, now hear me out, the 21st hex is invisible?
Oh, I thought you were going to say my blood, and I was really grateful you didn't.
It's always the missing ingredient.
Next time.
Mm. Just an observation. No idea what to do with that. And I'm just going to like turn to the side and stealthily start to investigate the rest of this room.
And Selwyn, as you turn to the side, you can see this large, clear, almost crystal-like window. And looking down, there are 5 figures. You see now up at the top of the stairs, physically standing, down to the space a lot better. In the middle of the room and kind of painted dark, and so only allowing a very limited amount of light through, there appears to be an orb that would be shedding light. You can see it looks similar to the bottle that you have actually, that you had your gin and tonic in. It looks like glass has been painted black as if to obscure the light within. You can see just through the faint bits of gray light that come out through it, there are 5 figures, humanoid, that are within these dark, ritualistic looking circles. And you see each has a dark line that traces to a central, almost vein that links to this shimmering distortion of reality in front of a stone sarcophagus beyond. You see glowing, radiant light that seems to be keeping this shimmer in reality strengthened beyond that. There is a massive organ in the corner of the room as well. That is what you see.
I'm looking over to Arquenth and just being like, just pointing right at it, be like, that looks like the sarcophagus that was on the boat.
You can see Arquenth look over and he looks at the casket, but then suddenly his head almost snaps down, and you can see focusing in on the person kind of closest to the interior staircase that you can see, just the last step of. And for the first time, he kind of like springs into action. He starts walking hastily over and towards these glyphs. But he turns back to you and he says, "That's Lorelei." And as he walks, he steps forwards. Drew, could you roll a d4 for me?
Sure can, bud. A 1.
Okay. You watch as he steps on the far left tile in that first row, and suddenly the entire row glows. And you see the shimmer of this wall of force at the very far end, and Arquenth freezes. He kind of turns instinctively to you, Annis. What do I do?
Stay there. For the moment.
Okay. You see, he's like just stopping mid-step, completely frozen. The bright red, almost like trench coat kind of thing that he wears, still moving with his momentum. But he stops. For all of you, you can hear underneath, within the stone itself, this low pulsing, very rhythmic.
So, sorry, the floor that we're on is like grid-like flagstones or something. Where did he step? Because I'm having trouble envisioning.
Yeah, I can show you exactly where.
Am I
So if you look at that
or
grid,
I am on the wall.
Perhaps. If you look at that grid, he is currently standing in the bottommost row, the
Uh-huh.
far left tile.
Okay.
It has 5 red dots on it, and it's like a black circle with some lines leading to each red dot off of it.
Okay.
His foot is on that, and that whole row is glowing.
So the bottom 4 are glowing.
Correct.
Oh.
Should we all
Step on a
st- maybe not a row, but one of the next ones?
Like in this row? Okay, I'm confused. What do you mean?
I don't-
What next ones? There's a lot of.
Right. Any one of the next ones?
Okay, I'm gonna approach one.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll just approach the one next to him
Okay.
and do a light hoof tap.
Which
Okay.
one?
This is the one that's
I'm gonna say. Oh, go ahead. Or
No, you
no,
said
I
which
guess
one.
I
Yeah.
guess I'll determine it. I think that one. Right?
It's the one above the one that
Yeah,
he's
the
on
one
in
kinda
that grid.
looked like a peace sign.
Okay.
4 dots,
You
circle, and
kind of
squiggly line.
awkwardly shuffle past him, between him and the wall, and you tap your hoof on it. And as you do, that whole row lights up, and you can hear that sound before the sound now a little faster. You feel the power beneath you intensify a little bit.
Well, if
Uh-oh.
that's the case, then I think I might go to the ceiling, right above the duck,
Okay.
Drop down on it.
and I'm gonna slow fall down onto the duck.
So all of a sudden, you see first the bun, and then the face, and then the clothing, and then finally the little feet of Baba Inu before she rights and lands on the duck. As you do, the duck and all of the other ones in this row light up, and you hear. Let me do math real quick.
I
Okay.
don't know if this is working. I might get off of this and back on the ceiling where it might be safe.
What are you doing? These 3 of 5 rows now lit up. You hear.
I'm going to sort of like stand and look at the symbols and just be, well, this one looks happy, and that means it's positive probably.
You're totally standing on this.
And hex is the opposite. So let's counteract a hex by standing on the happy face. So the one that looks like, a smile
see
at the curling up.
Diagonal from the bird.
Yeah, diagonal up left.
So all of a sudden, this entire row lights up. You hear this pulse quicken. There's a single row left. Each of these 4 symbols dark. What are you guys all doing?
Well, what's the? Can we see what the reaction is below with the peeps?
So far, it doesn't seem as if they've noticed.
Makes you think that this is.
Uh,
Want this?
uh,
Didn't. It would be disturbing it.
Or
Just
the,
have
the
one more row for us to all die, so let's get it over with. Hurry now.
just kind of like looking down, and then still I have no idea what's going on. I just picked that one.
The
Sure.
last row, I'll step on the one that's got the 4 red dots.
4 red dots. That is the.
Wait,
I don't think there is one with 4.
there's a 3, a 3, a 5, and a 1.
Oh, the 5 then.
5. You see this small gnome take a running start, leap, and then land on this final one. This row lights up, and suddenly this hum overtakes. It goes from a to a continual, and this wall of force drops. And finally, and he says, you look down and look back, you count, And each of the tiles that you have all stepped on add up to 21 red dots, 21 hexes. This thing
Wow, that
goes
was
down.
lucky. I wasn't even paying attention to that.
I know. None of you were.
He was like,
No, I was like counting the dots, being like, where is it? Where is it?
No.
And when you said 4, I was like, there isn't a 4. Oh, there's a 5, and that works.
There are a few paths to get through, but yeah, fun times. So
Shocked.
and I just went with the duck.
So you weren't counting either. Okay.
Intuition.
I think me, Miles, and Tina were counting. I think the two of you were just
It's
going
like
with things.
duck and
I was
peace sign.
It worked. The thing about this particular puzzle that I liked in terms of the design of it is that you can kind of mess up everything as long as the person in the very last 2 rows kind of knows what's going on.
Mhm.
And it'll kind of work out. But
That's why we always need a Tina in the group.
the rest of the
The wizard.
observation deck is now available to you. You can see there is a doorway that blocks off these stairs. And at the doorway, there is a large oval window and then 2 kind of rectangular, tall, like strips of glass on either side that allow you to see, although slightly warped, into the main room. From that vantage point, if you were to go and look down, you can see the 5 figures. You see this orb, you see this thing beyond. But in front of this wall now, you see another figure kind of kneeling. They seem to be working on another set of glyphs, perhaps the last set that the rest connect to. You see long hair. You see these kind of darker robes. Not much you can see beyond that. Her back is to you, and she is quite far away. But turning around and looking at the opposite wall, there are 2 kind of corners. One of them, or not corners, 2 sort of smaller divots into the wall. The one on the left, Bunghole Steve, the door is slightly ajar. It is a bathroom. The one further in, it's a strange antique-looking desk. You can see also brass. There are elements that are strange. I would say you're all from Dungannon. Bungle Steve, make a history check. You're the only person who might know something about this. You know what? Annis, you make a history check as well.
So you're gonna be like, never mind, don't.
No, never mind.
How about no?
What am I doing? History?
Yeah.
It's a natural 20.
Okay.
Well, fuck me. I got 17.
17 is still pretty good
No, it
for
is.
both of you. For both of you. There are elements of this that trace back to an ancient empire that sprawled across much of this planet. The Fazarakian Skald, this dragonborn, almost is an empire, is a massive sweeping civilization that seemed to almost vanish overnight. They had access to something called the Fazarakian techniques. It is artificing. And this is a thing made from this magic, long lost to the world for the most part. It is beautiful and gleams. It is unruined by age. And you can see a tremendous number of buttons and switches and dials and gauges.
Too bad Mormon's not here.
Wrong case.
I mean, is it too bad though? And just for you guys, because I can't really put this on Twitch, but remember again, Albro on RPG, at Albro on RPG on Instagram. Just pretend that this isn't upside down or sideways or whatever, but turn this so that the letters are correct. The letters are kind of for you guys to be able to talk. They're really unclear. I wrote this on the beach, but I'll be able to help you out. There are a number of buttons, dials, levers, switches. There are a few that have symbols on them, but most the symbols and the paint has worn away with age. I would say for all of you, you recognize the top left button. It's kind of like a light switch almost, with a lock and an unlocked symbol. You'd imagine probably has something to do with locks. There is 2 gauges, one of which you can all see measures temperature. That would be the one labeled H, the one labeled G, kind of unclear to most of you. Those are the only things really with like labels. Oh, the bottom right hand button labeled K, it does have a picture of a bat on it. Sorry, I'll describe some of these buttons so that you kind of know what they do. The one labeled A. This it's a lever that you pull down.
Mm.
The one labeled B is a big bright red button. The one labeled C is that lock unlock switch. The one labeled D is just a little arrow pointing diagonally right and down, and then an arrow pointing diagonally left and up. The ones labeled C, it's 6 buttons. You see they're each faint kind of paint, still flecks and chips on them. The top ones are white, black, and gray. The bottom ones are red, purple, and yellow. The one labeled F is actually like a little bronze port with a little shelf on it. You'd see maybe about an inch wide. Unclear as to what that does, although I would say with your natural 20, Anise, that is for an ancient, not ancient, a really, really old fashioned kind of magical thing called our Arcana tile, but it is a port for one of those. You see a lever, F. It's like a tiny little lever that goes up and down, but no labels on it. You see the 2 gauges. You see the thing labeled I. It's like an egg timer looking thing that you would turn to the left. You can see the thing that is J is a set of little silver switches that you could toggle up or down. They're all currently down. The K1 is the bat button. The L1 looks like a volume knob, like a little black volume knob. And the 3 buttons that are labeled M, each one is covered in fabric. One is like a brown fabric, one is like a pink fabric, and one is like a rich dark brown fabric. But those are all the buttons, the levers, the knobs, and what they look like.
I told you vampires go over the top with things. Couldn't just make it an easy keyboard.
Like the last one we just did.
Yes.
Yeah, someone has no fucking idea what this is.
I would imagine Baba is up on Solwyn's shoulder again, just perplexed and looking at this, really, really wanting to push the big red button, but
Yeah.
but holding back.
We are not smart enough for this, I don't believe.
Certainly not myself, no.
I
This
really
is the
want
only
to
thing in
push-
this room?
I just want to push the red button.
There's a chair that looks like somebody could sit here and like man this, so it's probably like a station. But aside from that, in this particular room, that's kind of all there is the bathroom, a door down, and otherwise it's just a big observation deck.
Indeed.
I'm gonna pull over the chair because my back hurts from pushing the statues.
Okay.
It unlocks the door.
You sit down in the chair and you look in front of you. There's this
Put my glasses
gleaming,
back on.
gleaming brass console, button switches, knobs, dials, and levers.
Take them off. I got nothing. No, just kidding.
Amazing.
That's
I don't know. Is this technology common? I'd assume not.
No, I would say you've never seen anything like this.
Not even like an amp. That's what I'm thinking. Like, oh, saw that
at a gig once.
Sir.
It does look to all of you humans very much like a mixing board combined with like a stage lighting board.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing like this exists that any of you have seen. Anise, you've heard about the technique of making stuff like this, but this totally different than like the armor that you've read about or like the shields that can rise up on their own. This is like a whole different thing. This is like a furniture item.
I don't agree with technology, and I think we should destroy it.
Well, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I gotta like wash my face.
Okay.
I'll leave you guys to this one. I have no idea.
I mean, I guess we should kind of just pick one and see what happens. And I think the gamble is just which one do we think is the most harmless?
It's obviously the red button.
See, I was thinking the lock and unlock,
Mm.
potentially.
Mm. Mm.
Could just be a door. You might hear like, no, I'll open him, something.
If it's not that one, we should push the big red button.
Wait, what if it's to the bathroom and we lock the way to the bathroom?
Well, I'm in there right now. I'm looking for any source of like water or like.
So Selwyn, as you walk in, you open the door, and it is just and this is an old place. You have to remember,
Right.
there is a long, like a long drop that goes down to a dry hole. There's probably liquid that was maybe running in a channel underneath. No longer.
Ah,
There's no running water here.
I'll snap my fingers audibly.
And echoes down the toilet.
Okay.
And then you just hear someone there.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'll just use my water skin to like
Okay,
clean
yeah.
myself off.
You start just cleaning yourself
And,
off.
do other bathroom things in the meantime.
Sure.
Use it.
Yeah, like use it
Sure.
because again, no one ever does that on
I did it.
campaigns.
I did it recently.
It's true.
It's true.
In our campaign, everybody has bathed and used the bathroom at least once.
Yeah.
I think Morwen uses the bathroom a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have prestidigitation, why not? You know?
Yeah.
But Morwen does. But yeah.
So, are you all pressing a button or something, or what is
I'll
your?
come
We
back.
should push the unlock one.
I'll keep an
So
eye
okay.
on the other room and tell you if anything happens.
Okay, you're very brave.
Innocent.
Thank you. Yes.
So on the lock and unlock, is it like a one's forward, like been pushed?
Yep. So right now, locked is in position.
All right.
You're
You
so
guys,
smart.
Who wants to push the button?
I'll push it, and
She's gonna take her cane and just jab it.
You watch the cane stretches across the console and taps this little switch. It into place. You hear from the door the slight tick sound as if something changes.
something has happened.
I heard
The-
something. Did you guys hear that too? Where did it
Yes.
come from? Where's the door?
So the door is right on top of the stairs, and looking, you can see like the oval window through the door and the two rectangular strips of glass up either side.
Yeah.
You can look in, and nothing seems to have changed in there.
And no
But you heard-
reaction.
Not that you've seen. It was a very soft click, and you guys are close enough to the door that you probably heard it. That
Hmm.
figure from the stairs in that room is probably like 80, 90 feet away.
Okay. Dude, try something else.
I will push the button.
Which button are you pressing?
Big red button.
Fair enough. You just pull the cane back, and
Unless someone stops me.
does
I
everybody
love how
stop?
you're doing it.
Does everybody stop her?
I don't know if that's the one we should go for next.
Hmm.
Try one of the boring ones, like that, like the gray one or something.
I'm gonna twist the volume looking knob.
Okay, the one labeled L.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you watch as Baba Inu's shriveled old hand goes over and turns it. If you try to turn it to the left, nothing happens. So you turn it to the right.
Yeah, turning clockwise.
So as you look through this window,
Uh-huh.
you watch as the figure at the far end turns the hair. You can see this gaunt, very, very gaunt, sharp chin, just flared out jawline. You can see like sunken in cheeks.
Mm.
This figure look as all along the stairs on either side, these tiki torch looking things begin to flare up with this pyrotechnic like fire. The volume knob just is how high up this fire is.
Knowing Baba, she would be like doing the twist with it.
So you see the figure suddenly turn furiously and begin to work faster. But you found the pyrotechnics button. What are you doing?
I'm just
This
saying the
ritual
red
is fucking
button
quicker.
would be great.
Is the door unlocked? Can I try like opening it?
There's nothing to open it with, and looking at it, you press it, nothing happens.
Oh,
You'd
okay.
imagine there is a button to open it.
There's you said there was a slidey bit, right?
Which
A?
it's a lever that goes down. Yes.
I'll pull the lever.
Okay.
Follow the lever, Grump.
Hopefully, it's not the wrong lever.
No, not that number.
No lever.
You grab onto the lever, and as you pull, it sticks. There's something. It's almost you imagine this does open the door, but there's something else that you need to do.
Big
Very
red button.
Clearly, gonna like fiddle with the volume knob again furiously, and then try to do the lever again.
Yeah, you work on that. Seems to be pretty much the same. Anybody else doing anything?
Quick button. Push all the buttons.
Slap.
Just do it.
Which one are you pressing?
Big red button.
You press the big red button. All of a sudden, you hear each door, the bathroom door, shuts as iron shutters go across each door. You have successfully.
Am I cut off from them?
No, because you left the bathroom. You said.
No, but yeah, thank God I wasn't in there when you did that.
Oh my god.
So
No, but I
you-
meant I was still at like so.
Up-
So
you were
this
up
this
at the door.
console is open to the space that I'm also in. Correct.
So currently, the console
Okay.
right here.
Okay, so it's
The
open
chair
to
in the
the rest of the room.
The bathroom's
Got
down here. Yeah, it's open.
it. Okay, that's
right
what I
here,
was.
this door with the
Uh-huh.
oval windows.
Yeah.
Shutter slams down in front of that. Shutter slams down in front of the bathroom. Shutter slams down there. You can hear it. You actually see the shutter in this room, the door over here, slam down as well.
Okay.
Every single doorway you would imagine in this building is now in lockdown mode.
We are all
you
trapped
see,
now.
and because it is midnight, you are all trapped in this space and have locked yourself on the other side with a massive crystal window to watch what happens on the inside.
Uh-oh.
That is where we're going to end for this evening.
Uh-oh.
But fantastic. You guys found it was so funny because Drew, at the very beginning, you were talking about this like
Flashy
being
showiness.
really flashy. There's literally an entire instruction manual on how to operate that console for like
Every time.
presentation. It's humidity controlled. There's all you can do. I thought of like everything that you could do for like a really over the top throne room, and it's there.
I don't care who runs the game. Vampires are always flashy and over the top. Don't care
Yeah.
who's running it.
Yeah.
Right.
And this,
Full of vampire lore.
and this particular vampire, well, and part of it is there. When you live forever, you live a pretty decadent lifestyle. You like nice things, and so you want everything to be just right. There's, so
Yeah. No,
And
no
so-
hate on it. No hate
Yeah.
whatsoever. It's
Same.
fantastic.
there's
You
a
live
lot.
long enough, you get bored, you make everything better for yourself.
Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Had a blast, and thank you guys all for playing this little side campaign. I'm having a lot of fun with it. We'll be back for the finale, which it looks like there might be a vampire in your future because you guys are locked out of that
We'll
room.
see what happens.
We'll see. But you do have a very good lockpick person amongst you. But
That's true.
next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be playing the finale of Bloodroot, this 4-part mini campaign set alongside our primary campaign. The week after that, I think we are beginning our session 85 of Adventures in Albion.
Wow.
Back onto the main campaign. Yeah, we've been going since 2019, although that was before we streamed.
That's
But
crazy. Thinking
I know.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is midnight. We're going to end for tonight. It is crazy out there. Please stay safe. Be careful. Hopefully, we'll see you next week.
Love you guys. Bye.
Very cool. Way to go.
Bye.